Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Asian Football Show. I am Arya Nourizadeh, joined by my wonderful co-hosts Erfan Hoseiny and Kenta Hagiwara. How are you guys doing? It's been a while since the last one, with all the circumstances and everything that's been going on, still going on today. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, you can't be doing very well during these times, like you said, Arya, with what's going on in both of our home countries. But yeah, we tried. We're still trying to put out as much content as we can for you guys. Yeah, Kenta, how are you?
I'm doing all right myself. Personally speaking, U.S. soccer in the domestic league and MLS is starting up, so work is starting up in that sense. But no, I'm just I wish I could support more than I can from kind of just.
So yeah, this is episode 44, and well, we don't have much topics to talk about, but we will have a lot to talk about in those topics. So we'll be talking about the Under-23 Asian Cup, the Futsal Asian Cup that has concluded, as well as Asian Champions League Elite league stage that has also concluded, and the ACL Two round of 16 hasn't concluded yet, right? Or is it over? Is it over? Yeah, it is over. Sure, Erfan has lots to say, right? Oh yes, it has concluded. What am I on about? Yeah, FCL got knocked out. So we'll talk about that in a bit. So I guess let's talk about the Under-23 Asian Cup. That's what 2026 brought us in the first place. Japan winning it pretty comfortably in the final against China. But let's go with our groups here. I guess I'll do the honors. Let's start with Group A. Vietnam, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Kyrgyzstan. Vietnam with a perfect record. Actually, I think they were, for me, other than Japan, the second best team. I think they were very, very good. They didn't score many goals in that sense, but I mean, you go in a group with Jordan and Saudi Arabia and Kyrgyzstan, where you're probably expected to not even make it out of the group stage, and you not only make it out, you top it with a flawless record. And Saudi here, obviously being the talking point, weren't good enough to make it out. So, what do you guys think about this group? I know Kenta talked a lot about this Vietnamese national side, right? I think I remember you talked about it a few times. So, yeah, give us your thoughts.
I'll let Kenta talk about Vietnam, but I want to get into Saudi and how disappointed I am in this team because, so a lot of people have said that this might be Saudi's golden generation. And with the likes of Mustafa Jawair, who are even playing in the senior national team, and Al Ghamdi, and so many other young players, a lot of people expected more, and they were hosting as well. So it's very disappointing that the only win they got was a 1-0 against Kyrgyzstan, and even that, I believe, came after an 89th or 90th minute winner. And then they went on to lose against both Vietnam and Jordan. So yeah, I'm just very disappointed, and I expected more in a tournament that you're hosting. And I don't know, maybe this is shades of next year's Senior Asian Cup, which they're hosting as well. We'll see. But yeah, Kenta, I think you'll talk more about Vietnam for us, right?
Yeah, Vietnam. What a run for them. I don't think we had them making the run that they ultimately did, winning, I guess, the third place match against South Korea in penalties. That was a really fun third place match. Look, they were so solid defensively, and I think when you're looking at youth teams, that's something you can highlight as something that will actually translate over. I feel like goal scoring sometimes is relying on one player or two players, and you don't necessarily know if that talent will translate over uh, to the senior level. I think being a really good defensive core at the youth level is something that more easily translates over to the senior level because it's reliant on a group of players cohesively playing together for a defense to be successful. You look at how they played in the group stage; they were so good to defend defensively. I'm really excited to see how they kind of transition into this group transitions to the senior level because that was a really fun run by them, including that. I guess the first knockout match. I don't know if that's the quarters against the UAE. Just a really impressive run all around. No real notes there. Just really fun to watch.
Agreed. I don't have much else to add. I think you guys added
I want to
everything.
talk a bit about Jordan as well.
Go ahead.
They qualified for the knockouts. They have this one player, Ali Azizi, and he plays in the Saudi league for Al Shabab. I think he scored 4 or 5 goals. I think he was a top scorer. Jordan are actually the only team in the tournament who didn't lose to Japan. I know they lost on penalties, but over 90 minutes, 90 or 120 minutes, they actually drew the game 1-1. And that's not something easy because we saw how dominant Japan were in the other games. I mean, they won the final 4-0, was it?
Yes,
4,
very
yeah,
comfortably.
won the final 5. They scored so many goals. Big up to Jordan, I think. Even though they went out in the quarters, they should be proud of this campaign.
Yeah, I mean, there's no shame to losing to the big teams in Asia.
Especially when they win the competition.
Exactly. So speaking of Japan, let's move on to Group B, where they topped the group with a perfect record. They didn't concede a single goal in the group stage. 3 games, 3 wins. I think it was a ratio of 10 to 0, I believe so. UAE making it out second, but just barely, as Syria unfortunately couldn't make it for them. Yeah, same points, but because of goal difference, I believe. I think the UAE went through, so I know Erfan was celebrating in his. I was about to say something. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut, but I know he was celebrating in his little corner that the UAE went through. He's pulling out the UAE flag. All right, bro. All right. So we got Erfan.
Who said I was celebrating? Who says that?
And
You got no
Qatar
proof.
on the other side were actually freaking terrible. They didn't score a single goal. They conceded 5. Yeah, they weren't good at all, which is a reoccurring thing when it comes to the Qatari youth national teams. Unfortunately, I feel like there must be a conversation because they don't do well in youth competitions in general. I guess the talking point here, I want to say, is Japan, but I mean, it's also expected. You just got to feel bad for Syria here, right, guys?
I think the huge loss. I mean, to lose 5-0 in your first game and then still go on to win your second game and compete for a chance at the knockouts. I mean, it's not bad, but then again, you let it go too easily, in the first game. After the third goal, it was one of the only games I actually watched in the tournament, Syria against Japan. After the second goal, I felt the team just let it go because they were actually pushing strongly until the 60th or 70th minute. And, they kind of lost hope. And then at the end, it was the goal difference that made them leave in the group stages. So it's very unfortunate for them. And I think they have a good future with this generation.
I mean, UAE Syria was a fun third match day in the group stage. So I mean, if there was a winner in that match, I think it was a 1-1 draw there. But if there had been a winner in that match, they would have moved on. So 5-0 loss to Japan. It wouldn't have actually mattered if you would have been able to get a result. And I thought Syria, went down early, created a lot of chances. They got the equalizer early in that second half and just weren't able to put another one in the back of the net. So it's unfortunate, but I don't think the 5-0 actually really mattered because UAE also lost 3-0. Like I don't really think the goal differential was the biggest issue there. I think it was more that you had to get a result and you weren't able to.
For Japan, I mean, I'm surprised you haven't said much. I mean, there's a few players that caught my eye, and I think caught the eyes of a lot of scouts or people who like to watch youth football. You've got Ichara, who also just joined ACL Alkmaar in the Netherlands quite recently as well. Yutaka Michiwaki, who just joined Fukuoka, I believe, as well, was very good. And then we've got my boy Yuto Zeki, who ex-Fukushima United player. So that's cool to see. And actually, I'm looking at the SofaScore players. There is actually a current Fukushima United player who was in that squad. Although at that time he wasn't a Fukushima United player. But I'm just all that to say that this club, despite them losing 6-0 today, they got destroyed. But we're not here to talk about that. We're the best club in the world. Anyways,
we are here to talk about that. That's exactly what we're here for.
All right, let's move on to Group C, which was labeled as the group of death, but wasn't actually the group of death in reality. Uzbekistan, South Korea, Lebanon, and Iran. Uzbekistan making it out again. The youth football over there is working, doing wonders. They haven't lost a game. South Korea, which I do have some comments. I don't know. They were iffy, I would say. Lebanon making it out third, and then Iran were fourth, which I also have lots to say. Some negatives, some positives. Very weird time as well, as you guys are aware. But let's talk about the other teams first. Not much to say about Uzbekistan. I think they were very good, although they played some filthy haram ball against us, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. They were all at the back in that game. It was a very frustrating game. Although they did ultimately lose to China on pens, which was an interesting game too. A big win for the Chinese national team there. But in general, I think, if you're looking at the trajectory of youth football in Uzbekistan, they're doing it very well. So nothing to be ashamed of. And they also won against South Korea very convincingly, 2-0. Yeah. Any other comments for the other teams?
Uzbekistan committed 24 fouls against Iran. It was one of the craziest haram balls I've ever seen. It was almost as haram as the Turkmen team. Bro. It was insane.
Nah. thing. Nothing is more haram
And
than
nothing's gonna reach that level, but like it was close, I think.
yeah.
But yeah, Uzbekistan, as always, in these youth competitions, I'd say they did well. And for Iran, are we gonna touch on them yet, or are we
Actually, let
leaving
me
that?
talk about South Korea. They were very weird. I don't know, man. I watched the game against Uzbekistan. I watched the game against Iran. They just weren't that great. They just weren't that great. It's the truth. I know South Korean fans might disagree. They just weren't great. They weren't bad, but they just weren't great. It was just weird for me to see. I was looking at. I was expecting a lot more from them. And then I think they lost eventually to who did they lose to? So
They lost Japan.
they lost to Japan, right? Yeah, 1-0. And then they went to that third place and lost on pens to Vietnam. And that's with them scoring like a 97th minute goal. It's not like in an emergency crisis mode, not what I'm trying to get at, but I don't know. I was a bit surprised with how they played. If you guys have any other comments to add, you guys can
No, I
go
agree
ahead.
with you there. They looked very shaky, even from the group stages. I mean, they lost to Uzbekistan. They drew to a very weird Iran side, and even though they did beat Lebanon, which to be fair to them, they had a very good second half. They have some great attacks, some great counterattacks, but they still managed to concede two, and they went behind two times, I believe. So they looked very, very shaky at the back. It was a weird side, like you said. I don't think it's not South Korean standard, I think, Yeah, that's the best way to put it.
As for Lebanon, I want to shout out this one player who I think was really good. He plays in Europe, I believe. I think his name is like Shaheen Farah, something like that. I don't remember his full name. It was the guy who scored against us, I think. He was very good. I think he was the only one who scored the goals for Lebanon. Yeah, he scored 4 goals. Yeah, it was very, very good.
Scored 4 out of 5 goals for
4 out of
Lebanon.
5. Yeah, it was very, very good. So yeah. Yeah. And for Iran, I'll let you go, Kenta or Erfan, and then I'll give my thoughts at the end.
I mean, like you said at the start, it's a very weird time for the players who were under a lot of pressure, not only from the people, but from within. As Arya, you'll probably know this best. In the first game, they didn't sing the national anthem, and in the second game, some players did. It was a very bad situation outside of the pitch. Inside of the pitch, I think Iran's main problem was finishing. They couldn't finish. I mean, in the first two games, actually they didn't score a single goal throughout the tournament. They didn't score anything, but they had over 20, 30 chances across the 3 games. It hurt my eyes watching, to be honest. It was painful watching this Iran team because they couldn't finish with their lives. I think they scored the one goal against Lebanon, but it was given as offside. But overall, very bad finishing from this team. And, going into that final game against Lebanon where you just need a win and you qualify, and Lebanon are already eliminated, I expected more.
Yeah, and it's like the coach calls up one striker, right? Throughout the whole tournament. Like even before the match started, I looked at that list and I just look and I'm like, what the hell is that? Who did you just call up and why did you call these players? I mean, you called up a single striker. What happens if he gets injured? You don't have another striker. I mean, of course, if you invite 25 defenders, you're going to do well defensively. I'll say one thing. They were very good. They only conceded 1 goal, right? They only conceded once.
Penalty
And in
too.
a group like that. Yeah, and in a group like that where, you have Uzbekistan, South Korea, right? To only be conceding 1 goal and it wasn't even against Uzbekistan or South Korea. I think it's a good thing. It's a big positive. The defense is very good. The attacking was the problem, and when you're calling up a single striker who plays all 3 games exhausted out of his mind, I mean, I don't know what you're expecting the poor guy to do. And there was a lot of like surprises in the lineup in the call ups that he did. A lot of players that we saw in the previous youth tournaments weren't called up for some reason. I don't know. It's a weird one for me because
wasn't there. One of the
the
strikers.
situation for me is like I'm worried about this team because there's no excuse. You can't finish bottom like that. But at the same time, you played well against the big teams. Like, I don't know how I can, they weren't terrible. Yeah, they weren't terrible, but they just weren't good enough. It's such a weird thing to watch. And then on top of that, you've got the whole outside stuff, which has obviously affected the team. I don't know what to make of this Iran team. So that's a question I have for you guys. What do you make out of this Iranian national team? Is there a doubt, or is there a situation where you let it slide, or what do you make it out of this?
I mean, they're lucky that this wasn't the Olympic qualifier. I'll say that. They're lucky that this was
Yes,
the non-Olympic qualifier. Because if it was the Olympic qualifier, I think a lot of people would be angry and more pissed off that they got these results. So maybe it can be something to learn from for next time.
the coach, if you guys haven't the news, Omiramon, I think, had to. I don't know if he got fired from the job because he made some comments after the Lebanon game, calling out the whole, system and basically being in support of the people. And yeah, apparently he can't
was detained
coach,
at
or
the airport when
he
he
got
came back.
detained, and some awful stuff happens. When that type of stuff happens, it's gonna translate on the pitch, and yeah, it's worrying, but I think it's best we leave it at that. Now let's move on to Group D, which was a more exciting group. Australia, China, Iraq, and Thailand. China scored 1 goal and conceded none, and that's how they got through.
That could have been Iran, by the way.
Yeah,
That could have been Iran.
yeah. It could have been Iran, but
It wasn't.
it is what it is. Not much to say. I think Iraq not being that great, not getting a single win was a bit disappointing too.
They
I
were
think
winning against Australia until like the 93rd minute, and then Australia got 2 back-to-back goals, and they lost.
they did
And they
93rd and
didn't qualify.
97th.
Otherwise, they would have qualified.
That's just
Yeah, Australia, their results don't speak highly of how not so well
they've
they
played.
played. I mean, even that first Thailand match, Thailand gets a red card in like first 10 minutes of the match after going up a goal, and that's how they score their 2 goals and win 2-1, up a man for 80 minutes of the match. Like, I know that's not necessarily Australia's fault that Thailand went down a man, right? But
yeah.
I don't think their performances were necessarily as exciting or as I don't know what the right term is there, but as
They shouldn't get as much praise, is what you're
sure,
trying to say.
yeah, as I don't think they're as impressive as they might seem on paper, and it showed, I think, in the first knockout match when they lost
Agreed.
to South Korea, who also weren't particularly impressive, I thought, in this tournament.
Agreed. So yeah, that pretty much puts that to a close. So Japan is your winners, Korea your runner-ups, and I believe
Japan won the last Asian Cup as well, right?
Yes, they went back to back. They went back to back. That's correct.
Impressive.
And then your third place spot goes to Vietnam, of all teams, who played very, very well. So congrats to them. And do you guys want to talk about maybe any players that caught your eye, any teams, anything like that, or should we just move on?
I want to talk about how disappointing as overall the West Asian teams were at this tournament. Yeah, I think the last 4 was only East Asian teams, even though the tournament was in West Asia. Overall, it was disappointing for West Asian teams.
So let's move on to the Futsal Asian Cup, which is always a thriller to watch, guys. You guys, if you don't watch futsal and stuff like that, I gotta put you guys on. It is so entertaining, and I'm not a big futsal guy myself either. But the games that I've watched, I mean, they were all bangers. Like literally, they were all bangers. I know Kenta's not too much of a futsal guy either. I don't know if you've watched more of it this year. I think I've seen you tweet some games there and there. I don't know. On the other side, I know Erfan, you watch futsal a lot more than we do. Iran are your crown champions, which isn't really a surprise. I mean, I think out of the what was that stat, Erfan? The last like 18 years or something? Was it 16 years? I don't remember what the stat was.
There's been 18 tournaments held, and Iran has won 14 of them.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wish that was the actual senior Asian Cups, but beggars can't be choosers. Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna go through every single game here. Let's just go through the groups. So Group A, Indonesia, Iraq, Kyrgyzstan, and South Korea. South Korea with no points, by the way, aren't great.
To be fair, they're very low ranked in futsal. So,
but is it because of a lack of? Because I'm looking at their last results, bro. They haven't won a single game in God knows how long.
They were pot 14, so
okay. So
they don't even they're not good.
So they're just not a futsal team. Okay, gotcha. It was hosted in Indonesia as well, which, by the way, massive crowds. I believe they broke records for the most attendance, right? Easily. You guys know how Indonesian fans can be. Very passionate, very good. It actually helps a lot with futsal. So yeah, Indonesia topping the group, 7 points with a +7 goal difference. Iraq being the backups with also 7 points with a +3 difference goal difference, and then Kyrgyzstan finishing third, and South Korea, as I just mentioned, with finishing bottom with a -7 goal difference. So yeah, Indonesian futsal, I did not know they were this strong. They were very, very good. I was very impressed.
They were not. This is something new to everyone's knowledge, you know? Yeah. They were usually third, even in the ASEAN region behind Thailand and Vietnam. So it was a first for them. I'm very, very impressed by the team, and I think they have potential if they continue this path to be, one of Asia's best teams and maybe even qualify for the World Cup in the next edition.
Because from what I've seen after the tournament, I think in the futsal FIFA rankings, they went up by a lot, didn't they?
I think they went to the top 20, if I'm not mistaken. Top 50,
Which
top
is
20.
very good, very impressive. Shout out to Indonesia. Any comments from you, Kenta? No? Nothing? All right, awesome. Let's move on to Group B. We've got Thailand, Vietnam, Kuwait, and Lebanon. Thailand, flawless in all 3 games, winning all 3. Vietnam being the runners-up with 6 points. Kuwait going out with 3 points, and Lebanon with no points at all. Thailand are a decent team when it comes to futsal, if I'm not mistaken, so it's not a big surprise. And
They
any
usually
comments?
qualify for the World Cup, so they are a decent team in futsal.
There you go. Group C, Japan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Australia. Tajikistan. Jesus Christ. I was about to say Tajikistan finished top with 9 points. Japan finished top with 9 points, with all 3 games won with a +8 goal difference. Uzbekistan's being the runner-up with 4, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. Tajikistan going out as 3rd place, and Australia being 4th place with only 1 point to show for it. I don't have much to say. If there's anything you want to say, either.
I think it's just unlucky for Tajikistan to be in this group. I mean, they qualified for the World Cup last time, I believe, and they're in a group with Japan and Uzbekistan, who are 2 very good sides. I think it's very unfortunate for them. Even then, they only lost against Japan. They drew against Uzbekistan, but it was very disappointing that they didn't win against Australia.
Group D, we've got Iran, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, and Malaysia. Iran topping the group, which is not a big surprise when it comes to futsal. Although I would say compared to the last editions, I think Iran struggled a lot more. But I don't think that's Iran being bad. I think that's the level of Asia just getting better when it comes to futsal. I mean, we've seen it with Indonesia, and we saw it with Uzbekistan and Afghanistan as
Afghanistan.
well. Afghanistan, they're on a rise when it comes to futsal, man. I mean, they are very, very good. Although they did get absolutely destroyed 6-0 versus Japan. But I know there's a few people on Twitter who were very agitated when that happened. But no, still, be proud of it. It was a good run. And then in the knockouts, you know what? I don't even have the energy to go through the knockouts, bro. Iran won it. All right, in penalties. It was a great, great, great game. They won 5-4 on pens. Very dramatic game. And even the semifinal, Indonesia against Japan, was a very, very entertaining game. So, yeah, any words?
I would say those 2 games, Indonesia's semifinal and the final, were the 2 best games in the competition's history. That's how good they were. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I've been watching futsal for a while now, and I've never seen an Asian Cup at this level, and it's amazing to see. I think the crowd played a big part of it as well, and Japan didn't do very well in the last edition, so it was good to see them back in this edition. And yeah, in both the games, Indonesia were winning in regular time, but then Japan and Iran both scored towards the end. But at the end, Indonesia won against Japan, but lost to Iran. And I think the main difference here was Iran's experience and mentality to push forward even when they're behind, which is something Iran lacks a lot in the football side of things.
In everything, bro.
In
In everything.
everything, in
In
life, yes,
everything.
exactly.
They,
And
they like that in everything, yeah.
yeah, they went behind in regular time by 2 goals. They went behind in extra time. They went behind in penalties. But at the end, Iran still won. So yeah, I mean, I'm very happy for Indonesia. I think they are the main story of the tournament, not Iran.
Yep. Would fully agree. So now we move on to the club side of things. Oh, actually, sorry, before I move on, I'll let Kenta give it a word. I feel like you haven't said anything. Any words, any comments, anything? Even if it's like the most basic of comments. Go ahead.
So it was good to watch Japan perform well from the matches that I watched. I didn't watch the final because Japan wasn't in it, and I don't know. I just haven't watched futsal much, unlike these other two co-host series.
Does this
I
Does this edition, because it was a lot more entertaining, does it make you more interested in futsal or not?
More interested, yes. I don't know if that means that'll translate to more minutes watched, but more interested for sure.
I like the new video support system they have. I think it fits in a lot with futsal, where the coaches can request for video checks. I think it wouldn't work in football, but for futsal, I think this is the correct decision, and this is the correct way.
All right, let's move on to the AFC Champions League Elite, as the stages has now concluded, the group stages. Lots to talk about. So how should I do this, boys? Should I go by group or should I just say the results? Because I don't know what to
I think
do
by
here.
group,
Or well, group, I mean, it's by
yeah, the standings.
So let's start with the west side of things. Al Hilal and Al Ahly finishing respectively first and second, which is not really a surprise. But then third place, Toktor, third. I mean, we've talked about how good they've been in this competition. I mean, they haven't necessarily faced a Saudi side, but still, I think only losing one game is still very impressive, especially with how the other Iranian teams have been playing. And again, with what's going on, it's probably not easy to perform either. It's important to note that there are no games being played in Iran because of what's going on too, correct? I think those games were played, were they, right?
Istiklal hosted in Dubai and Sapan and Tractor hosted in Qatar.
Got it. The Gulf countries, got it. And yeah, Al Ittihad, for them, although I'll say for Al Ittihad, you would expect them to be higher. The UAE teams doing very well. Al Wahd Al Ahli being up there, and then Al Duhal and Al Saad finishing 7 and 8 respectively, and barely making out alive. Unfortunately for Al Sharjah, they couldn't make it out because of goal difference. And then you've got your three bottom teams: Al Gharafa, Shorta from Iraq, and FC Nasaf from Uzbekistan. Yeah, it's not like I think Shakhtar being there is cool, but like for the other teams, I think they're the teams that we all expected to go through, right? So, any comments that you guys want to add first?
Kenta, I'll let you go first.
What a disappointing way to end for Al Sharjah. I mean, like they had winnable matches the last couple match days, and they just lost to Nasaf on the last match
A
day. If they
single
would,
point against Nasaf,
yeah, like at home, right? Like
Doesn't get easier than that.
Yeah, in terms of like, it's a shame that you went out on goal differential, but my goodness, like it's entirely on you if you're not going to be able to win one match in your last, handful that you had. So overall, very disappointing how they went out, I think.
I mean, they're ninth in the league. They lost yesterday to Ajman. I mean, it's just been a very bad season for them overall. I think it's been downhill since Kozman left last year for the UAE national team. And yeah, I fully expected all three of the UAE teams to go through over one of the Qatari teams. But lucky for Al Sadd and Al Duhail, Sharjah bottled it, and they bottled it very badly as well. And Al Shorta, I mean, they got a win at the end, but overall it was a very disappointing campaign for all Iraqi teams. Because of that, now Jordan has overtaken Iraq in the rankings, which means that we'll see Jordanian clubs in the ACL Elite soon. But yeah, talking about Al Ittihad, they had a very bad start. They lost, I think, for their first 2 or 3 games, they had a very bad start. But they did come back, so props to them. I think they'd be happy with this 4th place finish if they saw their results at the beginning. And then one last thing I want to talk about is Shabab Al Ahli in their last game against Al Ittihad. It was a very entertaining game. Al Ittihad were winning 4-0, and then they managed to Al Ahli, not Al Ittihad. Al Ahli were winning in Saudi Arabia, and then Shabab Al Ahli scored 3 goals. So it was very entertaining. They lost at the end, but it was entertaining.
Also, to be fair to Shabab Al Ahli, I think they've had quite a few injuries, right, down the line. So they haven't had.
They have, and they didn't play with their main team, I would say, against Al Ahly, because they'd already guaranteed qualification. Osman is also, he just returned from injury, so I think it's a lot to look forward to for Shabab Al Ahly. And if I'm not mistaken, they have 10 wins in a row in the league, and they're absolutely dominating the league. So
Yeah, well, good on them, man. Couldn't care less, to be honest with you. No, I'm joking. I'm kidding. Any last words, or should we move on to the east side of things? Kai Havertz is the greatest player of all time. Let's move on to the east side of things. The Japanese team's absolutely dominating. Machida Zelvia first, Vissel Kobe second, Sanfrecce Hiroshima third. Absolute domination. I think it shows the gap between the J League and the rest of East Asia, if I'm being completely honest myself. Vietnam United, though, very well done. And then at 5th spot, we had a team that we were bashing the shit out of in the beginning, Melbourne City. What a comeback they've had. Very happy for them. Basically, we were screaming for an Australian team to do well, and they've finally done so. So good on them. And then JDT finishing 6th, FC Seoul finishing 7th, and then Gangwon FC finishing 8th. And they actually overtook another Korean team, our favorite team, or one of our favorite teams here in the Asian Football Show, Ulsan HD, SD, 4K, 8K, whatever you want to call them. And then the Chinese teams, unfortunately, though, it's been very, very difficult for the Chinese teams. 10th, 11th, and 12th, respectively. Chengdu, Shenhua, and Shanghai Port finishing last.
2 wins in 24 games for Chinese teams.
Not good at all. Not good at all. I'm going to let Kenta speak first. I know you watch this region a lot more than we do. So give us your wonderful insight, my friend.
Yeah, I want to start out with Burinam because I think they finished 6th last year in ACL Elite, so it's an improvement on what they did last year, which I was kind of skeptical if they would be able to replicate what they did last year.
I agree.
Obviously, they're playing so well in their domestic league, so they don't necessarily have the pressure of having to put their best 11 out every single week in their domestic league, and they can kind of afford to prioritize ACL Elite. Melbourne City, not doing that well in A-League, but they are doing well in ACL Elite, and we talked about how, before the Australian League, domestic league has started, they had some of these ACL matches, and they really struggled in those matches, and rightfully so. I mean, you're playing before your season starts. It's preseason matches, but they're also probably more competitive than domestic league matches to an extent. You're playing really tough opposition, and especially in Australia, away matches, you're having to travel quite a lot. So it's good to see them kind of rebound off of that, despite not doing well in their domestic league, to kind of get the results that they did. They won half their matches ultimately in the group stage, which is, if you told me when we first bashed Melbourne City at the, when we were talking about this 25-26 season of ACL Elite, I wouldn't have believed you when you said they're going to go on to win four of 8 ultimately in the group stage. Would have called you crazy. Korean teams, again, it's just not impressed by them. And that's not necessarily a dig at them, but they all played about average. I feel like, JDT was better than them, Buridam was better than them. And I didn't expect this to be a situation where you have teams from Thailand and Malaysia consistently kind of outperforming the top K-League teams that are representing what's supposed to be, on paper, probably the second best league in Eastern Asia. So, yeah, and then Chinese Super League teams were so disappointing.
I'm just going to say it because no one else seems to say it in the Asian football community. So I'll just say it. I think Korean football at the moment, despite what some people believe, is in a very meh state. I feel like certain people are trying to pretend as everything is going well or overrate it to some extent. I think there's a lot of work to do because if this keeps up, you're going to fall behind. And you are already falling behind, I would say. We were talking about the youth football team just a moment ago, and then now here with the club team as well.
I don't
That's
know.
tough to see.
What I'll add is J-League to an extent, but also K-League. It's really tough to be playing these matches in the off season. That's probably the worst time. It's worse than being in Melbourne City's shoes and playing in the preseason. At least in preseason to an extent, you have your roster set for the upcoming season. You know who's on your roster for, I guess 25-26. Obviously, at the end of a season, during the offseason is the worst time to have to play these competitive matches because you have roster movement. You're trying to figure out what you're doing in the next season going into preseason for, I guess, the 2026 season for JDT or not JDT, for FC Seoul and Ulsan and Gangwon. So it's not a great place to be in. That's the silver lining, I guess, is it's not an ideal place. I mean, J-League, they're changing their calendar accordingly in 2026. So I think they're going to be better suited for something like ACL next season because it's going to be mid-season. It's not going to be at the end of one season heading into the next season. It's going to be right in the middle of their season. They can choose to prioritize, these AFC Champions League competitions if they choose to. It's really hard to kind of compete when it's supposed to be off-season. Your players are exhausted from a full season. Some of them aren't on your roster anymore. That's a really difficult place to be in.
I agree.
I mean, for Ulsan, in their last game, they were playing against Shanghai Port, who were bottom of the league. They're the only team in the whole competition that didn't win a single game. You should be winning that at home if it's to qualify. So I know the season has ended, like Kenta said, and Ulsan did actually start this tournament off pretty well. They even beat one of the J League, I think Sanfrecce. They beat Hiroshima. I think it was in the second or third match day. So they started the tournament very well. They had 7 points in the first 3 games. They looked, they looked like they were going to qualify. And then out of the next 5 games, they only got 2 points. So they have no one to blame but themselves. And it's one of the worst bottle jobs I've seen in a long time in Asian football.
After
That port match, I will say, I forget what the name of the port goalkeeper is for FC. Holy performance. I think he had double-digit saves in the no-no, against Ulsan in the final match day. Ulsan had so many chances, and it was just, the goalkeeper kind of just was a brick wall that day. And sometimes that happens, but just can't let it get to that situation on the match day where you need a goal, I guess. But yeah, it was quite a performance if you watched that match.
All right, so let's move on to one of my favorite parts of the show, doing predictions, where we are 99% always wrong with our predictions, all 3 of us. So the next set of matches have been drawn already. Al Wahda will be playing Al Ittihad. I think it would be rude to not choose Al Ittihad here. I think they're the ones, right? I'm predicting Al Ittihad to go through. I think it's the same for both of you guys, right?
I'm going to say Al Wahda.
Really?
Al Ittihad haven't been doing well domestically, and Al Wahda, to be fair, Jose Moraes did leave the fleet. They've been doing worse since then. But before that, they were doing so well. They were on an undefeated streak for a long time, and Al Ittihad aren't doing very well in the league. So I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to say Al Wahda will win against Al Ittihad.
All right, that's a very bold statement. What about you, Kenta?
Yeah, I'm not going to be bold, and I'm going to say Al Ittihad and go chalk here.
Yeah. I fully agree. Next up, Al Duhail versus Al Ahly. Again, I think Al Ahly's going to go through quite easily. Nothing. I don't need to explain. You guys, what about you guys?
Yeah, I agree here. I don't see any of the Qatari teams qualifying for the next stage.
Yeah, until the Saudi teams prove me wrong, I'm going to keep picking them.
So should we just skip the next one? Al Saad versus Al Hilal. We're all Al Hilal, I guess. Unless Akram Afif does some freaking weird magic. I don't see them doing well.
Which he tends to do sometimes, to be fair to him.
Yeah. The next game is pretty interesting. I think that's probably the more even out of the 3 others. I think Tractor against Shabab Al Ahly. I want to back Tractor, but I think now that Shabab Al Ahly are going to now have their full team with no injuries, I think they can beat Tractor. So it pains me to say, but I'm going to be as unbiased as possible. I think Shabab Al Ahly can win it here. And especially with, oh my God, bro, we completely forgot to say Dragan Skocic is not managing Tractor anymore. He just left. So that's very, very huge. Very, very huge. So
to be fair, the Rebi, who's their new coach, isn't a bad coach. They beat Al Gharafa with Rebi away. So it's not bad. I think their biggest loss would be the fact that they can't host in Tabriz, It's always been one of their big advantages to host in Tabriz, and with the recent situations, they're probably going to have to. Well, as of now, they're going to have to host somewhere else. So yeah, if the situation stays like this, I think Shabab Al Ahly will qualify, but it's going to be much closer than we think. I think it might even go to extra time, maybe even penalties. If Tractor were able to host in Tabriz, I would say that Tractor would qualify. But as of now, I say Shabab Al Ahly does. Sorry, Arya?
Or Kenta, you mean?
Kenta.
Yeah. I'll backtrack. I feel like this is too close of a matchup. I remember when they played each other earlier, I guess late last year, was it? When they played each other in ACL. It's a good match. I think it ended a draw. I think there's a red card. Yeah. So, and I think it was at Shabab Ahly too, right? Like they were the hosts. So over 2 legs, I'll back the team that showed more consistent performances during the group stage, I guess. And yeah,
we hope you're right.
Yeah,
we hope you're right.
The issue is consistency is not existent in Iran. That's not a word that exists. It's not an Iranian's vocabulary. For that, I don't know. I just don't feel it. I don't know what Shabab Al Ahly, like I said, you've got your players coming back, and I don't know, man. With a new coach as well, everything leads me to say that you're going to lose. But again, you guys might be right. I don't know. Anyways, let's move on to the east side now. We've got Gangwon playing against Machida Zelvia. I will be backing the Japanese teams, I think, for all the games here. Yeah. What about you guys?
He should be winning this.
Yeah. If Machida Zelvia don't win this,
I got no hope at the K-League teams.
Next up, JDT against Sanfrecce Hiroshima, which I think is going to be a lot closer than when people think. I think.
I'm still going with Hiroshima, sorry.
I will too, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people think. It's not going to be like full on blown out. I think JDT have stood their ground. I think they've been very impressive. I liked how good they've been. But I'm still going to back Sanfrecce Hiroshima.
The two sides played each other in the final match there. It was a fun 2-2 draw. I guess Sanfrecce weren't the hosts in that match, were they? Was it the final match day? It was
earlier. In October, maybe? I'm not sure.
I don't know if they played each other. They might have been in the same group. I don't know who I'm gonna pick here. I don't want to pick all three Japanese players and be like, oh,
they played each other in November.
Like, if you feel like all three teams are going to win because they've been dominant, like no one's gonna be like, you're biased. Like, they've genuinely been the best three teams. So
I don't know. I think Sanfrecce also have been decent in the first couple of J League matches that they played this year. I take that into account to an extent because I want to see how their form is just across the board. So I'll back Sanfrecce Hiroshima, I guess.
Cool.
They played each other in the second last match day, and Sanfrecce won 2-1. But Johor had an early red card to them, so probably affected.
Yeah, so I wasn't crazy. They did play each other.
Okay. Johor took the lead and then they got the red card, which led to Sanfrecce winning.
Yeah. This might be a juicy game, boys. This might be a very good game.
It was a weird red card too. It was like a handball red card too. Like Sanfrecce immediately scored after it on the pen. Like, it was one of those like, why is so early in the game are you going for like in the box intentional handball? It's a pen and a red card. Like 15 minutes into a match, it was not a good place to be conceding a penalty and a red card that early. But yeah,
cool. Next, Melbourne City versus Buriram United. I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup as well. I think Buriram have been very, very good, enough for me to confidently say they're going to go through. But then
Buriram, like they're killing it in their domestic league.
The thing is, they've played against each other in October, I believe.
But that was in Australia. I'll go first. I can't not pick Buriram, especially across two legs when they're playing a match at home.
I agree.
Fundamentally, that's tough.
I want to pick Melbourne, but I think it's going to be Buriram.
Cool. Next, FC Seoul versus Vissel Kobe. Two big names in Asia. Still back in Kobe. That was simple as that.
And Vissel Kobe for me as well.
Good on them. I think they just played recently, didn't they? Kobe won pretty comfortably 2-0. So I don't think Seoul is going to win. Yeah, let us know what you guys think. Your predictions, down in the comment section down below on Twitter, X, Instagram, freaking whatever social media that we're on, man. At this point, TikTok as well. Let's move on to Erfan's favorite competition, the ACL Two, which I can proudly say SLL have been knocked out. So thank you guys so much for watching. No, I'm kidding. Let's go through it. Man, it's the AFC Champions League 2 is a wonderful tournament. It's a wonderful tournament in many, many different ways. Let's go with oh man, I need to get my games here. All right, so I'll just go with what FootMob has given me here. So
do you want me to go through it?
Sure, go ahead. Because I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'll go through it. So the round of 16 took place, for in the West region. The first matchup was Al Zawra of Iraq against Al Wasl of UAE, and this was an amazing matchup. I mean, Al Zawra won the first leg 3-2, and then in the second leg they were about to qualify. Al Wasl got an equalizer in the last minute. Then in extra time, they managed to win. So overall, 6-5 aggregate score. I think this was probably the best tie across both regions. Fair play to Al Zawra for fighting. I think they did very well, but Al Wasl at the end, they qualified. And anything you guys want to say about this tie?
It was a very, very good tie. That's really it.
Yeah, it was so fun to watch the second match in particular. Stoppage, as you said, stoppage time equalizer, extra time winner, both by the same player too, right? It was one of their center backs that scored both goals. So yeah, very entertaining.
And then Arkadog against Al Nassr. Wow, fair play to Arkadog. I mean, they only lost 1-0 across both ties. They probably played like the type of haram ball you'd expect, the average Turkmen haram ball, which we're all very familiar with in this podcast. But still, only 2 goals in 2 games against the best team in the tournament, which we can all agree with. Fair play to them.
But also, this was Al Nassr's like Z team, bro. So it's so funny how they're not taking this competition seriously at all. Genuinely.
And that would make it very unfortunate if they do win it while not taking it seriously, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, they had some big names coming off the bench that second match. I think Joao Felix came on, Kingsley Coman came on, some bigger former
Yeah.
European stars in there. I mean, that second match was a really early goal by Al Nassr, and then they weren't able to do anything else for the remainder of that match. Yeah, I thought it was competitive to an extent. You know, we're able to keep it close, which not a lot of teams can say. I think in this competition of Ottomans.
And
Or
then
against teams like Al Hussein too, but we'll get that in a bit.
we'll get to that, don't worry. And we had Sepahan against Al Ahly, the only game to go to extra time, which I think not hosting in Iran cost all the Iranian teams very badly, you know. I think it's done a lot of damage to them. I mean, Sepahan should have won both games, and you know, and they didn't win either. They drew the first one after getting a red card, and Al Ahly scoring a last-minute equalizer, and they lost the second one in extra time, which they should have won. They had so many chances, and then they had the mistake at the back where Donishkar just headed the ball back to the Al Ahly striker who finished it off, and yeah, they couldn't score. So disappointed, but you know, at this time, I'm not gonna blame them much. But you know, it's also expected of Sepahan because they're the usual bottlers in
Yeah, well,
Asia.
that was what I was gonna say.
Speaking
You
of
said,
bottlers,
I mean,
yeah,
bro, you said like you're not gonna blame them. I'm fully gonna blame them. I mean, they're the most inconsistent fucking team in Iran, and they've been that inconsistent team for so long, and it's so annoying to watch them play because when they do play well, they're genuinely such a fun team to watch, but that can't be
they
said
got
in.
such good players as well. You know, Limuchi, Mohammad Mehdi Moebi, Lotfi. They have so fun players to watch, but they can't. You know, they
They
can't do
have
it.
some injuries too, right? If I'm not mistaken, Shafi Deuce is out, right?
Sheffield Deuce is out. The captain Karimi is out. They've got some injuries, but
Those are
still.
two starting players, but still, yeah, they're just inconsistent as shit, man. That's just really it. Speaking of inconsistent and shit, let's move on to the next team, Estelle.
Oh god. Oh my god. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
You're gonna have to cut this out, bro.
No, I'm keeping it in, bro. I'm keeping it in.
All right,
Sorry.
go ahead. So yeah, talking about those two words, let's move on to Estelal against Al Hussein. I mean, I don't know what else Estelal could have done, man. Like they had everything handed to them on a silver platter, and they still couldn't freaking win. I will say though, I think they got robbed in that first leg. Genuinely, I think so. But
At least one of the goals were onside. I'm sure of it.
I believe so too. And then after those two goals were called off, Yusuf Abu Jalbush with a freaking banger of a goal. The guy just said, "You know what? I'm just gonna shoot," and that was a brilliant
Yeah,
strike.
it hurts watching that from the stadium.
Watch it live. Poor you,
Yeah.
man. Oh, that's so sad. And then in that second game, where like again, I think SLL were the better side, and then they score a 95th minute goal to put the dagger. You know, Jasser Asani couldn't carry the team on his back on his own, unfortunately. But we have an SLL fan here. I mean, I'm technically an SLL fan. I'm not as
No,
much
you're
as a
not.
fan
Nah,
as
you're not, bro. You're not.
I'm not as much as a fan as Erfan is, but yeah, I mean, where does SLL go from here?
I think that's a lot from here. You know, they're in a very good position in the cup. They're in a very good position in the league. Sapinto just got sacked. That's true. You're in a very good position in the two domestic competitions. You know, all the big teams are out of the cup, and you just try to go for the double or try to win at least one of the competitions. Like
All
that's
the big teams are out of
that's
the
where it's
cup. Yeah.
no, except that's not what I mean. Even Kenta is rolling shades at me, man. Like, oh god.
But it was
But
weird though.
no,
I don't know. You shouldn't be struggling against a team like. I mean, all credit to Al Hussein. I don't want to put them down too, but you shouldn't with the players that SL have signed too. The amount of money that they've put in recently, you shouldn't be struggling like that. But
I think
yeah,
it
man.
came ultimately to the first leg, which they should not have lost, man. You should not be losing. Should not be losing against Al Hussein away from home. I know it's not in Esteghlal's ground, but it's not in Jordan. Even in a neutral venue, you should not be losing to Al Hussein with all due respect to them. And I know they were the much better team. They scored 2 offside goals. They had many chances. You gotta take those chances, man.
So the ties for the West side. So we've got Al Wasl playing against Al Nasser. Maybe Al Nasser might take the game a little bit more seriously. Maybe we'll see more starters play. God knows. And then on the other side, we've got Al Ahly playing against Al Hussein, which I think is going to be a very fun game. I think it's going to be a tight game. Any of these two teams can go through. So predictions for those two games. I think Al Nassr is getting through, and I think fuck Al Hussein, man. They've pissed me off. Al Ahly to go through, I think.
I'm gonna go with Al Nassr and Al Hussein to go through, and I think because Al Hussein are hosting the second leg, I think it's gonna be a big advantage for them.
Yeah, same here. I think it's Al Nassr, Al Hussein.
Perfect. I guess I'll introduce the other side of the bracket too, Erfan. I'll do it for you. Pohang Steelers going out to Gamba Osaka. A lot tighter than people thought. Ultimately, Gamba Osaka winning 3-2 on aggregate. So they're going to be facing Ratchabura FC, who they knocked out Persib Bandung from Indonesia. So I know I just introduced both games, so we'll just speed run through those two. What do you guys think about both ties?
I want to talk about the Persib game. Persib against Ratchaburi. I don't know if you guys saw what happened in the second leg. The Saudi referee was attacked towards the end of the first half, I believe it was. I'm not sure. But yeah, the fans were really pissed and they had to like fall off the game for a bit. I mean, I know Persib have great fans, and so do all Indonesian clubs and national teams. But I think you got to be respecting the referee. I mean, I know even if you disagree with them, but yeah, it was a good atmosphere. And on the Gamba Osaka game, and it was closer than I thought. To be fair, I thought Gamba Osaka would win a lot more easily, and they only won by 1 goal across 2 legs. So fair play by Bohang Steelers, but I don't think K-League clubs are beating any J-League clubs anytime soon.
This is so funny. The player who scored in that second leg for Pohang Steelers is a Japanese player, and
yeah, there you go.
and he was playing in the J2 league before that. That's funny. It's funny how the world works sometimes. Anyways, any comments from you, my friend?
Yeah, I think Pohang Steelers in that second match had a goal that got disallowed by VAR for being like offside late in the match. I think it was like the 87th, 88th, somewhere around there, right? And so it was a close tie. It was a very, very close tie. But Gamba Osaka ultimately move on. In terms of Ratchaburi, yeah, it wasn't that close of a tie. The first match kind of, I feel like, sealed. There was it wasn't really going to happen in that second match. I don't think even if that red card didn't happen, I don't think Person scored another 2 in the second half against Ratchaburi to equalize. So
Nice. Let's move on to the other games. Bangkok United defeating MacArthur FC. Although MacArthur FC tied the last game, they tried to come back and was not good enough for them. Musen Al Hassani from Oman. And Omani playing for a Thai club is very interesting. Yeah, they go through and they're going to be playing against Tampines Rovers, who very easily were able to dismantle Hanoi from Vietnam here. Any comments? Anything to say?
There's a lot to say about that Tampines Rovers games actually.
Go ahead.
There's a lot. So Hanoi actually won the first game against Tampines Rovers 4-0. But guess what? They fielded illegal players and ineligible players.
Yep.
We've seen this before, haven't we? And it's always these Singaporean clubs. I don't know what kind of curse they have. I don't know what kind of black magic they're doing, but it's working. So, fair play to them. And it wasn't one illegal player. It was 2 illegal players. Like, I don't know how that happened. Okay, you mess up once, fine, but oh my god.
I think the manager said something about it where like they just didn't realize at all. Like it wasn't just a mistake. It's just they just completely didn't realize. I don't know who was doing the paperwork, who messed up, but man, you guys
someone got fired, or someone got fired. I think
you guys gotta double check because that is crazy,
especially after last year.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, does this mean Tampines Rovers are going all the way to the final?
We'll see. I mean, maybe if Gamba Osaka also field an eligible player against them in the semifinals. But it's crazy, man, how this happened 2 years in a row. Kenta, what do you have to say about it?
It's a shame because Kongan Hanoi Police would have moved on. And I thought they were competitive in the second match, but also, they were completely dominant in that first match. So they would have moved on. As for Bangkok MacArthur, that was not close. I know the final score was on aggregate, it's like 4-2, but MacArthur lost 2-0 in the first match. Bangkok went up early 2-0 in the second match. It was over. I mean, I think one of MacArthur's goals was a second half stoppage time goal, down 3 on aggregate. Like, I mean, it's just a consolation goal at that point. I thought Bangkok United were very, very good across 2 legs. And yeah, Tampines Rovers, they are very lucky. I don't.
That's the best way to put it.
Luck is on their side.
Hello, so Erfan here again. This is the continuation of episode 44. And, because of the whole situation in the Middle East, we had to postpone the previous episode. So we thought instead of releasing that and this one separately, why not just combine them? So yeah, Arya, Kenta, you guys are doing well?
Yeah, doing well, doing well.
Doing well? Good to hear. All right, so by the time we're
Alright,
recording now,
just gonna forget about me, bro? Alright, cool. I'm doing well. I'm doing well, guys. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Good to hear. And so by the time I'm recording right now, the Women's Asian Cup has finished. Um, and yeah, let's start talking about it. I mean, lots of stories. In Group A, we had South Korea and Australia both finish on 7 points. And then Philippines advanced as one of the best third place teams. Iran going home with 0 points and 0 goals scored. But Iran's story comes mostly outside of the field, where me and Arya will talk about it a bit later as well. In Group B, China finished with 9 points, North Korea with 6, and Uzbekistan with 3 points, also advancing. Bangladesh with 0 points and 11 goals conceded. And then in Group C, Japan with also a perfect group stage, 17 goals scored, none conceded, and maximum points. Chinese Taipei with 6 points, and then Vietnam and India going home. So, Kenta, I want to know your initial thoughts on the group stages. Anything that surprised you? Anything that you expected?
Well, I'll start with Vietnam because they were the one third place team that didn't move on to the knockouts, and really unlucky. I thought they played not so well in the opening match against India, and that's what's going to cost them. Like, because they went out in goal differential. I think they had -4 compared to the other two teams that were a couple goals ahead. And if you win by more than one goal, and granted they won that match barely, like they had a second half stoppage time goal to win the match. So it was a really unconvincing result. They go on to lose to Taipei 1-0 in the following match day, and then lose 4-0 to Japan. I had higher expectations for this Vietnamese team going into the tournament. I thought they could get a result against Taipei. They didn't, of course. And then, of course, that India match. India just really struggled this entire tournament, especially in the group that they were in against Taipei or Taiwan. I mean, it was a couple 3-1 loss there, a 2-1 loss to Vietnam, but of course the 11-0 loss to Japan. So like I expected Vietnam to get a couple more goals in that India match, and they just weren't able to, and that's what's going to cost them from being able to move on to the knockout stage. But no, I thought there were some good matchups here in the group stage as a whole. I thought I don't want to call it chalk, but it is what happens, right? And we'll probably see something similar at the World Cup too, where like when you let 3 of the best 4 teams in the group move on to the knockout stage, you're going to get less quote unquote upsets because more teams are moving on to the knockout stage. So the stereotypical like better teams have an opportunity to really be able to move on. So I think that's what we saw here. Like you saw some teams like Australia and South Korea draw, but that result didn't matter at all. Because even it's not just top 2 anymore. I guess it was the final match day, so it didn't really matter at all because they won their first 2 matches.
Well, I say that was the only draw of the entire tournament, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great match too. Over in Sydney. Yeah, no, it feels like there's less stakes when you have this setup. I know in the Olympics, it's the same setup where you have 3 groups of 4 teams, or it was at least back in 2020, 2024 in Paris. But yeah, it felt like there were lower stakes this time around, at least in the group stage.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. There was only one, I would say, like actual good and close, decent match, and that was a South Korea and Australia game. Oh yeah, I want to come to you. Do you have anything to add to maybe what Kenta said? And if you don't have anything to add, I
Yeah.
want to talk about maybe Iran's performance.
Before I got to Iran, I also really enjoyed the China-North Korea game in Group B. I think that was a very close game too. Two, somewhat decent teams in women's football. Yeah, that's a game that I kind of wanted to highlight. And then again, yeah, Japan just been dominant. They only conceded 1 goal throughout the whole tournament, which yeah, I think it's a big commendment to how far women's football is at now in Japan, and it's just going to keep on getting better. Or will it? We have some news that we're going to talk about later on as well. As for Iran, oh man, I mean, listen, I'm not going to stand here and say I had exceptionally high hopes before the tournament, but what we saw during the qualifiers, I think, was very, very nice. It was very positive. They were very good in the qualifiers, Iran, weren't they? I really liked how they played. They gelled well. And, it was a team that was showing lots of hope and promises. And then, of course, they got into that group, which, I mean, you're facing three very decent sides, and two of them, could well be considered as favorites for some. I don't think there's a soul in the world who expected Iran to get out of that group, but with that pressure already, right, of them just being in a tough group and just women's football not being the best in Iran, you then now have all the off the field issues, which can you just put yourselves in their shoes for a second? How difficult that time period must have been for them. And I mean, what are you going to expect in those results? So they haven't scored a single goal, conceded 9. It's unfortunate, and it's also a weird thing because I can't really comment on the performances because it's difficult for me to give people an idea of how they've played because I'm not sure myself. It's you're going into that tournament with a full-out war, or not war, sorry, protests happening in the country.
It was war by then. It was war by then.
Was it war by then? Okay, the timeline is, I mean, this is ancient now. The Women's Asian Cup, right? It's been a few months. So, yeah, it's just unfortunate, really. I don't know if Erfan, you want to go more into detail about it?
Yeah, I mean,
because I know you've tweeted a lot about
pressure.
it, so
Yeah,
I'll give you the stage.
I mean, the pressure these girls were on, it was insane. I mean, and even on the field talking about it, Negin Zandi, who's probably Iran's best player, unfortunately was injured a few months ago and
Right.
tore ACL. Yeah, so
Right.
that was also a big loss for Iran because we had a lot of high hopes on her, and she played very well during the qualifiers as well last summer. So yeah, I mean, on the field, let's be honest, this is what we did expect.
Mhm.
You know, at least, the losses weren't that heavy except for Australia, who were the hosts and are a world-class side. So it's expected. The Philippines, I think they made the last World Cup, didn't they? So
They
yes,
did.
it's not a bad loss. And then South Korea as well, of course. They were the only team who were able to score against Japan, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not a bad tournament. I think it's expected. And considering the pressure, I'm not gonna really complain much. I'm just happy that we were able to make two, back-to-back Asian Cups, especially considering that we'd never qualified for a tournament before all this. So
I don't know.
that's all I have to say.
I would still say it's a bad tournament. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. I think it was a bad tournament, but with everything that happened, it's to be expected. So I don't know if Kenta has anything to add, or if we should move on to the next topic here for the Asian Cup.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tough. I asked myself, they were in that group with Jordan in qualification. I'm like, would Jordan have performed better? And I don't think so. These groups are so tough in the Asian Cup. The format, I'm not going to complain too much about this format in the Asian Cup. I think it works in certain tournaments. Again, I think at the Olympics it works because you have so many top teams that letting a lot of them advance to the knockout stage, even if they finish third in the group, is inherently probably good because of just how tough these matchups are. But golly, I feel like having a fourth group in the Asian Cup probably would have worked out to where Iran probably had a slightly more favorable group and they could play a bit better. I don't know. It's tough. These groups are just tough to perform in. Especially when you're the underdog, and then you have everything else off the field going on. It's really tough to get a result in this competition.
Right.
And you were playing Australia, right, in the group, but they're also the hosts. That's all. Talking about disadvantages left and right and left and right. I mean, you've dug yourself. Not, I guess you haven't directly dug yourself, but you're in such a hole from before the even tournament started. So it's a tough group. I don't think there's anything to be too ashamed of.
Yeah. Well, before we move on to knockouts, I had a bit of hope for India, especially after the first game. Barely losing to Vietnam. I was like, all right, maybe just a small loss to Japan, maybe 3-0, 4-0 at most, and they concede 11 goals. And is that the biggest loss ever in Asian Cup history? Because I don't remember anything. But 11 goals, man. That's insane. That's
I mean, they've
11
conceded
goals, but it's also like
final.
it was like 11 goals in like 60 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, in
like
the,
watching it, like
holy shit.
it could have been more if Japan would have kept piling on in the last 20, 30 minutes
They
of the
scored like
match.
10 of the goals in the
right?
first hour, wasn't it? Like,
right. And so like, yeah, watching it was something. It was something.
I think you start to feel bad at the point.
Here's a fun fact that nobody asks for. They've actually conceded. So in that one game, they conceded the same amount of goals as Bangladesh have the whole tournament, which is interesting.
That's a very interesting fact there, Arya. Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys.
Bangladesh also didn't score goals this tournament, right? So it's the same goal differential in that one match.
Yeah.
It wasn't just goals conceded, it was goal differential. Because Bangladesh didn't score.
Right. I guess the other topic of the hour is Niels Nielsen will not be continuing as the manager for Nadeshiko Japan, which is came to a shock to everyone, if we're being honest. I'll let the Japanese football expert here give his thoughts and opinions.
Yeah, it definitely came out of the blue. Obviously Nielsen's contract was through the Asian Cup, so it's not a sacking per se. I know the technicality there's like sacking would be if you were on a contract and you were relieved of your duties before the contract expired. This isn't necessarily the same case where you're having a manager just not re-signed to a new deal. I think one of the assistants, also an Australian assistant, was also moving on. I forget her name. Is it Leah Branny? It's an Australian female coach, which is significant because now in the new FIFA rules, I think you have to have a female coach on a female national team at least as an assistant coach or a coach somewhere on the coaching staff. I guess Nadeshiko Japan will be looking for a couple new coaches. They have a trio of friendlies this April window against the U.S. women's national team, so that's probably not going to go too well.
How crazy is that, by the way? Three friendlies.
See, they announced a friendly against Japan. The U.S. women's national team did a couple months ago, and I was like, it's just one friendly, because they weren't going to be in the FIFA Cup because of the Asian Cup. And then I look at the schedule, and it's 3 matches all around the West Coast. It's a lot of travel too, and I'm like, who came up with this? Is a great idea. But yeah, neither of them are in the FIFA Series. I'm sure we'll quickly touch on at some point later. So they'll play against each other in the West Coast of the U.S. And that should be something. I don't expect that to go particularly well for Japan. No, it's a surprising just non-resigning considering how well Nielsen did as a whole. Won Japan their first FIFA Cup last year in 2024, and then won the Asian Cup in pretty. The final wasn't super convincing, a 1-0 win, but as a whole of a tournament, it was a pretty convincing tournament, I thought. So a bit of a surprise there, I guess, but Japan, they're especially their women's team has a pretty rich history of hiring domestic coaches, and I think philosophy-wise, and I know they said he was a bit too lax, too relaxed, and I don't know if that's entirely accurate, but it just feels like there was just some conflict in terms of whether that was the language barrier, the cultural barrier, whatever that might have been. And there's very high expectations for the Japanese national team, to say the least, as a team that's won the World Cup in the past. So we'll see what direction they go in the future. Yeah, it's a shocker for sure.
Right.
Yeah. We can talk about the knockout stage. I don't think we touched on the knockouts. We kind of just went from the group stage straight to Nielsen. The quarterfinal, every team that made the quarterfinals, if they won the quarterfinal matchup, qualified for the World Cup. If they lost, they would go into a play-in match for the Interconfederation playoffs. So you had South Korea beating Uzbekistan 6-0. Japan beating the Philippines 7-0, China winning in extra time 2-0 against Taipei, and then Australia winning 2-1 against North Korea. And so Uzbekistan, Philippines, Chinese Taipei, and North Korea went on to those play-in matches. Semifinal, South Korea lost to Japan 4-1. China lost to Australia 2-1, and the final was a 1-0 win by Japan over Australia. Any comments?
Micah Hamano with a banger of a goal, by the way. The GOAT, right there, if you're watching on YouTube.
Is this the first time in history that 29 United Nations has won?
It's not the first time. It's not the first time.
First time ever. The first time ever.
I mean-
second time. I mean, Harvard scored in the Champions League final. I think second time we can say.
We're gonna see the 29 United Nation win again in June when Iran lifts the World Cup in the US in front of
Okay.
Donald Trump. I'm just joking. I'm just
Okay.
joking.
Oh, God, and,
all jokes aside, anything
I
else
mean,
for the
huge-
Women's Asian Cup?
huge
No,
wins.
it's been a wonderful tournament. I liked it a lot. But I think, and this is, I don't know if you guys are gonna add anything to this, but I think it kind of shows the gap between just Asian, like the women's national team in Asia. Like you've got just the really good teams in Australia and Japan. I think you've got the decent teams in South Korea and then China, et cetera, et cetera. And then you've got like the not so good teams in like Iran, India, Bangladesh, et cetera. So yeah, that's
I think that's
women's
just
football for you.
reflective of. Yeah, I think that's just reflective of women's national team football as a whole. You look at any confederation, that's so, like even in CONCACAF, the gap between the U.S. women's national team and potentially Canada and Mexico compared to like the rest is pretty shocking. I think.
Right.
So
right.
that's why I feel like a lot of these like in continental confederation like competitions, whether it's Asian Cup or whatever it may be, Euros, it's just not given the same significance as the World Cup, and then therefore something like the Olympics gets so much more attention because
Right.
it's that much more significant. But yeah,
Right.
also Philippines won against Uzbekistan. North Korea beat China, the Chinese Taipei. So those two will be in the interconfederation. I guess those two
Playoffs,
teams
yes.
are also in the playoffs. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, just you mentioned the gap. I mean, like for example, South Korea won 6, Japan 7. You know, like it's crazy how just how much gaps there are between these teams. So yeah, I think we'll want to move on from the Women's Asian Cup.
I'm ashamed
I
of
think I
being here, bro.
misspoke really
What
quickly, so I'm
was
gonna make
that,
sure.
man?
I'm going to make sure this is correct on the record. South Korea, Japan, China, Australia, along with the Philippines and North Korea. Those are the 6 teams that have qualified for next year's World Cup.
The Philippines and North Korea will be moving on to the playoffs, right?
No, the losers move on to the playoffs. The winners qualify for the World Cup. So then Uzbekistan and Chinese Taipei are moving on to the playoffs. So 6 teams have qualified from Asia so far. 6. Yeah.
All right. So 6, possibly 8. Holy shit.
Yo, 8 Asian sides would be kind of cool. Actually, that's a lot of teams, right?
This is why no one takes us seriously, Arya.
Yeah, it's a 32-team tournament, so it's a lot of teams to have.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, so ACL Elite. Let's talk.
Before we move on to the ACL Elite, let's talk about a prestigious tournament here. We got the Under-20 South Asian Football Federation Cup, which was won by Bangladesh, which may not seem like a big thing, but it's still pretty good for a national side like Bangladesh, who in recent times have done a lot of effort for their football federation. You think of the Sullivan brothers, who have been always a big topic for this Bangladeshi national side. You've got Ronan Sullivan, who is freaking smashing it, man. Genuinely doing very well for them. So
very cool.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I'm very impressed. I'm very, very impressed. Good on them. I think it's a wake-up call to teams like India. I mean, India's already like well behind and looks like they will be behind for a while, but like things are getting so bad that like you've got the nations around you who are, that they probably once never thought would rise, that are now starting to rise. So I think that's a big, big wake-up call to like national sides like India. Like they desperately need to get their shit together because it could get ugly for them, in my opinion. All right, enough South Asian football talk.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the juicy stuff.
ACL Elite. Yeah, I mean, obviously the Western's round 16 games didn't take place due to the ongoing war in the Middle East, which, by the way, we hope all of our listeners and viewers in the Middle East are doing fine, and hope all of you and your families are safe as well. We have to mention that. And so, yeah, we'll start off with the East region then, because the Western games didn't take place yet. So, I guess we'll go with Gangwon versus Mashida Zildia first. The first game in Korea ended 0-0, and then Mashida won their return leg thanks to a goal from Otaka Nakamura. I expected more goals, and I expected more goals, but at the end, Mashida got the job done. Kenta, what did you make of this?
I didn't expect any more goals. This is just how much does Zelvia play. There, I don't know. It was a pretty boring series if you were watching it. The first match, neither team really I think they had a couple chances each, but it was a pretty game in Gangwon. And then you look at the reverse fixture. Machido Zelvia created they scored early in that match, and they just bunkered down and just were like, hey, we're just trying to equalize that area. And it wasn't the most exciting time, but Machido Zelvia move on. Pretty boring all around, if we're being honest. I guess I expected a bit more goals, more than one, I guess, but that's I will
Guys,
say
I'm gonna be.
it's go for it. Go for it.
I was gonna say, for the exception of JDT and Sanfrecce Hiroshima, I think all across the board this was a pretty boring round of 16, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
yeah.
But then that's just how knockout football is, especially at an Asian level. You don't always get I think it's just always been like that. Especially in the East side, I would say, you don't always have you're not gonna have your 3-0, 4-0, 5-0 blowouts like you're gonna see, with the Western side, with Saudi clubs more specifically, for example. Oh, yeah. Anyways, sorry, Kenta. Yeah,
I mean,
cut you
Tani
off.
played well. Tani Kosei played well. He had a bunch of saves in that second match against Gangwon. As a former national team goalkeeper, I guess he's kind of gone down the pecking order for the Japanese national team as younger players make their name in Europe at the goalkeeping position for Japan. But or I guess even in J League, you look at someone like Osaka for Sanfrecce Hiroshima. But I thought Tani had a great game. He had a bunch of saves he had to make and made them all for the clean sheet. 2 clean sheets, you can't really be complaining about that.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the 2 other Japanese teams. Vissel Kobe did very well, actually, winning both home and away games against FC Seoul, 1-0 and 2-1. In the second game, I believe they came back and they were down 1-0. So it was a good performance by them. And the other Japanese team, Sanfrecce Hiroshima, were actually eliminated by Johor or JDT. In the first game, Johor won 3-1, and then in the second game, and the away game, Sanfrecce only were able to get a penalty in the last minutes, and it wasn't enough. They pushed on, but they just couldn't break through. And JDT, I would say, had a very good defensive performance. They came into Japan knowing that they just needed to hold on and not concede 2 goals, and they did precisely that. I think it was a good performance. Arya, I'll let you talk about any of these 2 games first, either Vissel Kobe or Sanfrecce Hiroshima JDT.
For Vissel Kobe, I watched both games, and yeah, they got the job done. It's just Vissel Kobe, and they're one of the best teams in Japan. They did what they had to do, and it was good football for them. But Sanfrecce Hiroshima, yeah, it was pretty. It was surprising. It was surprising to see them go down like that. Pause. But I mean, you get a red card pretty early on to the game, right? And that opens up the gates for JDT. And JDT, are not a team to underestimate. I feel like a lot of people, they don't see a team that's from Korea or Japan and they're like, oh yeah, this team is going to lose. I think the standards are much higher for a team like JDT nowadays, especially. I mean, I don't have much to say. I think it just went wrong for them on that day. And, when you have a 3-1 lead, it becomes much more difficult for you to come back in the second game. And, they just didn't do enough in the second. I think Kenta would have a lot more to say than I have.
Yeah. We'll start with Vissel Kobe. They started in Seoul. That was a match that Seoul will probably want back. They created a lot of chances. They really failed to put the ball in the back of the net. Especially you look at that second half. They really should not have left that match with a loss and not scoring at home. That shouldn't have happened. There's some credit to be had, I guess, to how I guess Maikawa played in goal and Thulare the goal scorer. There were some positives from Vissel Kobe, but they really, I thought, generally really struggled to create chances. And it was the same story in the second leg. Seoul scored early in that match, and it took a while and some substitutes. So Osako Yuya, I think, was a substitute in that match and came off the bench and scored what would be the winner across 2 legs. With 20 minutes left in the match, 15-20 minutes left in the match. I mean, it was really unconvincing from the Vissel Kobe side that for being honest, they've been absurdly good in J League so far. I know they're playing their shortened season so far, and it's the format of it's a bit wonky at times, but like they've been like their form this year as a whole has been really, really good. So the results there were great results at the end of the day because you win both matches. But I think when you were watching those two matches for Vissel Kobe, it was slightly concerning considering how they actually got their wins because it wasn't as convincing as I would have wanted them, or I guess I would have expected them to be. Because FC Seoul, if they would have just been a bit more clinical in front of goal, they easily would have walked away with this tie. They very genuinely would have because it just wasn't great from Kobe. Sanfrecce Hiroshima, you hit the nail on the head. An early red card, and it's even more difficult sometimes when you have those back threes to lose an outside center back because there's a lot of communication that has to happen. When it's a back two, it's a lot easier, I think, or a back four with two center halves and one of the center halves leaves. It's a bit easier to replace than when you have that intricate three, like that sort of 3-4-3 for Sanfrecce Hiroshima. Are we calling it that? 3-4-2-1, whatever you want to call it. It becomes a bit more difficult to kind of because the communication now isn't just between your center half next to you and then like your fullback. It's now a wing back that's playing aggressively, and it's kind of like how do you communicate with your holding midfielder? The spacing is a bit different, and I thought like the wheels just came off the bus. Sanfrecce Hiroshima, like their one goal was an own goal too, I think, in that tie at JDT, so it just wasn't a good performance at all. I don't know what it is about knockout football and Asian matches for Sanfrecce Hiroshima. We saw it last year, albeit in very different circumstances, where they field an ineligible player, but like they keep shooting themselves in the leg. Like this is the second year in a row, and in like the first round of. Was last year the first round of knockouts? Maybe it was the second, somewhere around there.
It was
like
it was the second round, I believe.
Yeah. It just isn't good enough. You have such a good squad. Like objectively speaking, Sanfrecce Hiroshima is a very good team. I don't get it. Albeit like they've really struggled as of late, like post elimination from AFC Asian Cup. Or not Asian Cup, ACL. I think they've lost 4 straight at the time of recording. But like generally speaking, they're a very solid side, and they just keep shooting themselves. Like they just always they hurt themselves. Whether it's fielding an ineligible player, taking yourself out with a red card early in a match, just concede the goal. If that's the issue, just concede the goal. You can come back from a goal down. It's really hard to come down from a man down with 70 minutes left to play in a match. So it's just not. I don't know if that's coaching issue. I don't know what it is, but it's really disappointing because I think Sanfrecce Hiroshima would have expected better, and obviously at home they really did. Like their one goal I also came late in that match. It was a PK and around stoppage time in the second half. They did nothing the entirety of the match. So by the time that goal went in, it was already too late.
Yeah, I mean for the last round of 16 tie where we had Melbourne versus Buriram. I think before the tie, that was probably the most unpredictable one. It probably was. I mean, both games ended in a tie, and then it went to pens where Buriram ultimately won. When it goes to pen, it's really 50-50 when, with the team at home probably having more advantage. And that's what happened at the end. Buriram won the tie and qualified. I would still say this is a successful campaign for Melbourne City, though. I don't think they should be disappointed, especially considering how long it had been before an Australian team performed well at this level. And I think, if they can qualify next year again, they can maybe look to improve on this. But I want to talk about Buriram. I mean, Buriram United, before last season, I think the last time they made the quarterfinals was back in 2013 when they lost to Esteghlal in the quarterfinals. And then they didn't make it again until last year, and then they made it again. So 2 years running, making the quarterfinals of the ACL Elite, I think that's great improvement. I mean, wouldn't you guys agree, Arya?
No, I fully agree. I fully agree. I don't think there's any doubt about that. From Melbourne City, I want to go back to them as well. I had a comment. I think this is a team that all three of us had written off, right, because of how poorly they started. So yeah, I agree with you on there as well. Fun for them to reach that far is very nice. I would like to see them do that again, or another Australian side to do as well. But we're just gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah, and Kenta?
Yeah, what a signing Neil Etheridge has been. I know it took a couple years for him to make the mark that he has, I guess. very recently, but it's a guy that has a lot of appearances for the Philippines national team. He's been kind of their number one for a while. I guess not recently, and he has had a great career over in Europe, in England specifically. So I mean, to have that kind of experience in a PK shootout is very favorable. I don't know if they went into that match necessarily thinking, "Hey, like we have the edge if we take this to pens at home," but they definitely did. 2 saves and you move on. So, yeah, what a performance by him. Yeah, overall it was just it was a very fun match to watch. And like that second leg, but if you can't forget, they got a red card early in that match. And they somehow kept the clean sheet. I don't know if that's where the mentality shifts, where like you just can't concede the goal. Ultimately, Melbourne I think get a red card late in the match as well. But like it was a despite a 0-0 draw, it's pretty action packed. So yeah, fun tie.
Yeah, and I mean, moving on to the west side, obviously the games haven't took place yet, but they will take place next week by the time of recording. There's been rumors where Tractor might withdraw. I really, really, really hope they don't. I really hope they don't. I mean, it'll be so disappointing if they do. They did so well up until now, and seeing them either unable to travel or withdraw would just be disappointing. I know one or two of the foreign players have left the club, but even if it's just like the whole domestic squad, I still want to see them play. I think it would be just a waste if they play all these games just to withdraw. And the rest of the games will all take place in Saudi Arabia. Now, normally I'd be very mad at this, but because of the situation, I guess it does make sense. Arya, anything you want to add before we move on to the ACL Two?
I think it would be very, 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 very unfortunate for Tractor to withdraw after the amazing campaign they've had. I mean, where is the next batch of games being played? It's in Saudi Arabia, isn't it?
Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. Yeah.
So I guess we'll move on to our favorite competition, the AFC Champions League 2. Where in the round of 16, which we already discussed previously, so we're going to cover the quarterfinals this time. So first of all, Bangkok United, I want to congratulate them on doing the hardest task possible, which is not fielding an ineligible player against the Singaporean side. So congratulations to them. They did it. They won the tie. They qualified. And then in the in the other tie, Gamba Osaka against Ratchaburi, and this was much closer than I thought. I mean,
Right.
Ratchaburi took Gamba Osaka to extra time, and then they won after a goal from it was Welton. Yeah, I think it was Welton who scored the goal for Gamba, and yeah, I mean it was a much more exciting tie than I thought. Yeah, I mean sets up, I would say, a good semi-final between Gamba Osaka and Bangkok United. And if Bangkok United are anywhere as good as Ratchaburi on, I think this can be a very, very amazing tie. What do you make of this, Kenta?
Yeah, I mean, not good enough from Gamba Osaka. I know they moved on, but ACL 2, you really should be. I think the expectation is a bit higher. Those two sides played against each other, I think, last year as well, in the group stages. And Gamba had won by a couple goals in both matches, so I don't know if that went into the decision making of like I don't really remember how rotated their team was, but I feel like I remember some of their players. I mean, Walton coming off the bench, I feel like he's at this point well known as a starter for Gamba Osaka. So I don't know how much rotation ultimately went into it, but they move on. And then of course the other tie, Bangkok United and Tampines Rovers, was very good, very entertaining. Yeah, I don't. This is why we love ACL 2 so much. Is the ties are a bit more entertaining. I think is
We love
in terms
it.
of gotta love it. Yeah, it was very good. No notes, I think.
And Arya, I want to know your thoughts on Bangkok United not fielding an ineligible player against Tampines Rovers. I mean, I think that itself is maybe worthy enough of winning the entire competition. What do you
Yeah, I
think?
think I think they deserve it more than all the teams there. I think they deserve it over Al Nassr as well. So I will be rooting for Bangkok United from now on. Hopefully they go ahead and then win the whole thing. I'm a little bit upset that my goated team, Arca Dog, is not there. I miss them. I miss talking about them. I hope they come back. I miss their amazing football. And yeah, they still got knocked the fuck out as well, but we don't need to talk about that,
Okay,
do we?
we already talked about that, Arya. We don't need to.
No,
You did
I
not
just
need
felt
to
like
mention that.
I just felt like mentioning that. I think it
Okay.
just felt like mentioning that again. But no, you guys said everything really, and there's nothing more I can really add to it. So yeah, ACL Two.
Yeah, and the West Region games will take place in Dubai. The remaining games. If I can, I'll try to attend them. I mean, Al Wasl versus Al Nassr, that's a good game. I'll probably try to attend that game. And maybe an Asian football interview with Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that can happen.
We're too big.
But let's see.
We're too big for him, anyways, bro.
Do you think he deserves it? Or I
No.
don't think he's reached that level yet. Yeah.
Nah.
No. We'll save it for the Arca Dog players. Moving on to the AFC Challenge League, we had the two quarterfinal ties from the East region take place. We had the all-Cambodian matchup between Phnom Penh Crown and Sverre Yang. And Sverre Yang, it was a very easy win very easy tie for them. They won both games, 4-1 away and then 2-1 at home. And then in the other tie, Manila Digger Philippines beat Tiwa United 3-2 on aggregates. Which sets up a semi-final between Sverre Yang and Manila Digger. Anything you guys want to mention, Kenta?
Yeah, I want to mention something. I'm getting on this. Jamaican center back, former Philadelphia Union man, Damian Lowe scored a brace in that match against
what the fuck?
Against Manila Digger.
Of everything that you were going to say, I was not expecting that to be what's going.
He was on a hat trick. I just want to say
That's
it was
actually crazy.
A late brace and Jamaican international at one point. I don't know if he still plays for. I think he does. I think he played in
does
the.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Listen, mate. This is the Asian football show. It's not the CONCACAF football show. All right.
Respectfully,
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
This is an AFC player, but he had a brace, and I don't ever recall him being a goal scorer in his time playing for Houston. Time obviously for Philadelphia for a very long time. I can't recall him being a goal scorer, and he scored a brace. Ultimately, they end up one goal short of the draw. They lose 3-2. But my goodness, Damian Lowe, where'd that come from?
Imagine a player who never scores a brace. That's like Kai Havertz scoring a brace, Arya. That's it's insane.
Let me go through his match list and see when he last scored. Okay, he scored for Jamaica against Bermuda. I'm not going to give that credit, because that's no fun. Before that, his last goal came in 2023.
Wow, exactly like Kai Havertz. Yeah.
So there's one guy I want to give a shout out for.
I didn't even know Damian Lowe was there, so kudos to him.
I wanted to give a shout out to the Ghanaian striker Kwame Pepra for Sverre Yang, who scored a hat trick as well. He's on form for this Sverre Yang side, even in the Cambodian Premier League. Now, I'm not gonna sit down here and pretend like I watched the fucking Cambodian Premier League, because I don't. I'm solely basing my thoughts off of SofaScore and such, but hey, he could be that guy, who wins them the whole thing. You never know. Sverre Yang looked very, very good.
I mean, he has 20 goals in 24 games for the club domestically.
Right.
Those are some very good stats.
Sverre Yang have 2 Japanese players that start consistently. What are your thoughts on that?
Does that
make you? Actually, they have a third one. They have a third one. They have a third Japanese player. He's very obviously Japanese, but on SofaScore it says that his nationality is Cambodian. So I'll leave it at that for the AFC Challenge League. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else for the AFC Challenge League, or should we move on to the FIFA Series?
Yeah, I think let's move on. So yeah, in the FIFA Series, this is the second edition of the FIFA Series, which is just a bunch of international friendlies that takes place with teams from different continents. So let's talk about Australia's FIFA Series first. It was hosted in Australia, and they won both games, a 1-0 win against Cameroon and a 5-1 win against World Cup debutant Curaçao. I think they played very well in both games. I mean, especially against Curaçao, scoring 5 goals against a team that's playing in the World Cup. Yeah, obviously they're not the best team, but they're not a very bad team as well, you could say. And yeah, Jordan Boss, who's a left back, actually scored in both games, which since we're talking about defenders who are scoring goals, why not mention it? But I think what's more important is Iran Kundam, who scored 2 goals in the game against Curaçao. We've spoken about him a lot before. He's a good player.
Yeah, man. Shout out
And
Iran.
he's yeah. Of course, he had to make this about himself. They managed to win the FIFA Series. Kenta, anything you want to mention?
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Brian Mbeumo available. I know he didn't play in this series for Cameroon. Obviously, a team that didn't qualify for the World Cup, but they're still a very good side from CAF, like in one of the better African sides all around. And I thought the system in Australia really held up under Tony Popovich, which I don't know if I necessarily expected a clean sheet against Cameroon in that matchup. So
Right.
kudos to them for that. Yeah, I'm assuming Australia go into this World Cup in that like back three, back five. It's more of a back five. I know some people will list it as a back three, but it's a back five with the wing backs that have the freedom to kind of play higher up the pitch in those wide channels. We'll see what the midfield looks like, because I know they didn't really have their first choice guys available for that match, right? At least didn't play them, So we'll see what it looks like. Some injuries for Australia to keep an eye on, but good results. It's always good to go with the last window, like get a couple wins in the last window before a World Cup to kind of just get good motivation and good momentum into the World Cup.
China were actually also in this FIFA Series, and they didn't play bad at all. I mean, they won against Curaçao 2-0, and they lost against Cameroon 2-0 as well. But that's not really surprising. I'd say it was a decent challenge for them, especially since they won against Curaçao. Are there anything you want to mention about Australia or China?
I'm actually gonna say something that has absolutely nothing to do with both of these nations. I know this is the Asian football show, but I just have to mention it. Jesus Christ, are Curaçao in trouble for the World Cup, man? They do not look good whatsoever. I hope there's someone there to save that team, because I watched both games and they were just not good. But back to the Asian sides. Yeah, I mean, with Australia, I mean, I think it's a reoccurring theme for us, man. There's some days and some games where they're just absolutely awful, and there's some others where they just play really, really well. But yeah, as Kenta mentioned, when you score that many goals in a game, it's always nice to have. It's a big confidence boost, a good boost for the side. I believe Australia have a friendly against, I think it was Mexico,
Scotland.
and Scotland as well. So those are two big friendlies for Australia. Excited to see.
Yeah, I mean, also
what
it's just
transpires
like
for them.
their group is like very winnable.
Very
Like,
very winnable.
it's not it's
very
in
winnable.
the World Cup. So like they
Very
like
winnable.
it's a great opportunity for them to like,
If they play anything like the 2022 World Cup, they're gonna qualify.
yeah, Paraguay, Turkey,
Right.
USA, like it's not the hardest group. It's not the
Why does
easiest group,
Kenta
but
have
it's
the
not the hardest group.
biggest smile in the world when he said the USA?
I'm
I just
so
saw
excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this group, because I think like each team has a very legitimate chance to finish first and fourth, and like those groups always are very exciting to watch. Where like you don't have a clear cut favorite. I guess I personally don't, and like you don't have a clear cut fourth place team. And if everyone's a 2 and a 3, it's really fun to watch.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Next up.
Moving on to the next FIFA Series, which took place in Indonesia. Indonesia managed to beat St. Kitts and Nevis 4-0, and then they lost 1-0 to Bulgaria. Now, I know Bulgaria are a European side, and they did beat the Solomon Islands 10-2, but, at home, I'd be maybe favoring Indonesia a bit more, but, it's not bad. I mean, at the end, Bulgaria are a mid-level European side. Kenta, what do you think?
It was a penalty. I'm not going to give too much to it, I thought Indonesia played well. Their system, I still feel like it's still fairly new for John Herdman. It was his first matches with the Indonesian national team after taking over, former Toronto FC guy. It just felt like the identity there in that Bulgaria match was still trying to figure out what they wanted to do. It just felt incomplete, which is fine. It's at the end of the day, it's a friendly. They were able to get a good result in the first match, and it's just second match wasn't good enough. It's okay. I'm not gonna look too much into it. I want to see what John Herdman, or just in general, what Indonesia can do over a stretch of matches with a manager that's like competent like Kluivert. So we'll see what that looks like.
Wow.
I said it. They the way they went out once they put Kluivert in charge was just so disappointing.
No, I agree. I was just joking with
That's
you.
fair.
I think
That's fair. Yeah.
I think if you're an Indonesian football fan, I don't think you should be too concerned about that 1-0 loss. And is that like the first time they've played a European side? I'm looking at the recent results, like a very long time. So,
Yeah.
you still have a few more games, a few more friendlies down the line. I think then you can have much more of like an actual opinion. And then again, beating St. Kitts and Nevis is also not a thing to really. I mean, yeah, it's a good warm up, good game. But I think I need to see more. So, yeah. Also, Kenta said former Toronto FC man to John Herdman, which was hilarious. I mean, he is also the former Canadian national manager, which I think is what he's mostly
Toronto
known
FC was
for.
the most recent. Toronto FC was the most recent coaching that he had. Was he not?
Right.
He was Toronto FC. Yeah. So that former Canadian. Yes. No. Toronto FC. As a big MLS person, that's the most recent one that comes to mind. But yes, he also was in charge of the Canadian national team.
Yeah, and the next FIFA Series is in Puerto Rico, where we had 4 of the American territories play against each other in Puerto Rico, Guam, U.S. Virgin Islands, and American Samoa. And Guam is actually part of the AFC. So yeah, they lost 4-0 against Puerto Rico, which I would say is expected. Puerto Rico isn't a bad side. They're not a good side, but they're not a bad side, and they are hosting it. And then they went on to win 6-0 against American Samoa, which, I know American Samoa are famous for that, or infamous for that 31-0 loss against Australia. But I think 6-0 against Guam, it's a bit better than that. So yeah, I'm not going to pretend like I watched these games because I didn't. I don't think any of you guys did as well, but it was okay.
It says
Yeah.
from FootMob that before those 2 games they haven't played since the 17th of December of 2024 against Hong Kong. Is that correct? Have they genuinely
I think
not
that's
played
true.
that long?
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
It is true. I think that their last game was the qualifier, I believe. Is that correct? Or was that even before that?
I don't know. The
I
last
can't
result I
remember.
see is a 5-0 loss before the 2 friendlies. 5-0 loss to Hong Kong, 2-1 win against Macau, 2-1 loss against Northern Mariana Islands, and those were in 2024. Not that it's very important. It's just, I don't know. I was just curious. Why haven't? If anyone knows why they haven't played, because I genuinely have no idea. So if anyone has a clue on why they haven't played in this long, well, let us know. Right? Would be much appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, Kenta, you probably know a lot more about CONCACAF than we do, but how would you say the level of Puerto Rico is? Compared to Guam.
I don't know a ton about Guam because I haven't seen them play. It's really unsurprisingly they haven't played in a minute. Puerto Rico, I mean, like they're one of those like lower CONCACAF teams. I don't think they made it out of the second round of CONCACAF World Cup qualification. I'm trying to remember I think they're in the group with like Suriname, and I don't think they played well against Suriname. So if that gives you any better context as to how they are.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. They're just not. They're never a team that I'm like. They'll beat like the Arubas and like the lower CONCACAF teams, lower ranked teams, but like they're not going to hold their own against the top teams. So
I mean,
it's not a ton to talk about.
AFC teams that got destroyed by CONCACAF teams. I mean, Macau lost 4-1 to Aruba as well. So we'll move on to that. I mean, not only that, in the next game they lost 6-0 to Tanzania. So yeah, I think that was a bad FIFA series for Macau.
Was that the one in Rwanda?
You don't say.
It was in Rwanda. Yeah. It was in Rwanda. At least they got to travel. I mean, I heard Rwanda's a good place.
Yes, we're playing the whole thing we did with the Iraq, where it's like at least you get to travel to these matches.
No, I mean,
Hey, man.
Macau to Rwanda, like how many hours is that? At least like 15 hours, right? I mean, they probably got a, good meal on the plane or something, some good sleep
they
maybe.
Better have if you're going to go all the way out there to be losing these matches, man. if I'm getting, a bad meal on the plane, that's icing on the cake. Like, my goodness.
According to both
Yeah.
FootMob and SofaScore, the last time Macau won a game was back in 2019 against Sri Lanka
Wow.
in World Cup qualification
Oh
round
my
1.
God! Wait, wasn't that the game where they won 1-0 and then in the return, like I remember they didn't travel to Sri Lanka and then they got disqualified
Right.
because of that. If I'm not
That's
mistaken.
exactly
Yeah,
the game.
I remember that vividly. Yeah. Oh my God.
And then the game before that,
Uh,
before the World Cup qualification, they lost 7-0 to Sporting Club de Portugal. B-side under 21. So not even the main under 21 team, the B under 21. Yo,
Okay,
I'm not joking, bro.
Okay. At least the only way they can only improve. All right? They can only
there's no
go
going
up.
down.
There's no going down at this point. They can only improve. And we've seen some like lower ranked FIFA teams hold their own. San Marino's had some good matches here and there.
Not Macau.
So
Not Macau.
so Macau, we're rooting for you. Y'all are gonna go up.
I
right?
really
You guys need
do
to
want a
improve.
Macau kit. The green kit that they have, I really like it. But apparently it's very hard to get by. Like you can only get it in Macau and it's like in a specific store or something. So yeah, I'd love to have one.
Some of those national team kits are hard to track down, unfortunately. But they're by a big manufacturer, no? Adidas?
Isn't it from Nike, if I'm not mistaken? Let me see.
I don't know which year you're talking about. They used to be Nike. I thought they were Adidas right now.
It's Adidas.
Yeah.
Oh, they changed. I'll say I didn't even know. If they did change, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Keep up.
No, don't keep up.
Sorry, guys. I apologize for not keeping up on the Macau national team kit. Sorry, I really apologize.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Right.
Okay. In the next game, in the next FIFA series, or should I say, which is the last one, it took place in Uzbekistan, and they won 3-1 against Gabon. Good win. Gabon are a decent side. They probably would have qualified for the World Cup if they were in another group, and I believe they made the playoffs as well in the African continent. And then they also played Venezuela and drew 0-0, but went on to win 5-4 on penalties. I think the Venezuela game was a good challenge for them. I know Venezuela didn't qualify for the World Cup. They bottled it very, very badly in the last game, and they didn't even make the playoffs. But I still think it was a good challenge for them. And I didn't watch the game, but I know Venezuela aren't a bad side. I mean, I think Rondon still plays for them. I think he plays in the Mexican league, but we know he's a good player. And Venezuela are always that one side that everyone predicts, oh, they're finally going to qualify for the World Cup, but they never do. But yeah, at the end, I think it was good performance for Uzbekistan across these two games, and yeah, looking forward to the World Cup for them.
Yeah, I'll add a couple of things. Gabon missing some of their key players, including LAFC's forward Denis Bouanga, and so you kind of saw it with aside from their early goal in that match, they kind of struggled to really create a lot of chances. Gabon's attack when it's on is a very lethal attack in terms of what they can do in the wide channels, and even when they had Aubameyang coming around as their striker, they had a lot of quality. Rest in peace, Aaron Bepensa. Yeah, and it just feels like without some of their top players up front, they were just kind of lacking. And then when you have a really solidly good defensive side in Uzbekistan, they were able to kind of contain the match after conceding an early goal. So that's what I saw there. Venezuela, as you said, at one point during this qualification window for this 2026 World Cup, we were talking about Venezuela making their first World Cup because they were playing so well early on. They kind of stumbled at the end. They still have great players. A lot of players playing MLS now. Wiki Carmona playing for CF Montreal was the number 10 in that match. David Morales plays for LAFC alongside Denis Bouanga, who didn't show up for this window. So they have some names that I guess at least for me are kind of recognizable and can be dangerous at times. I think Solomon Rondon, as you mentioned, came off the bench. So they're a solid side. It's a good result. I guess, I don't really care what happens in pens because that's not really going to matter in the group stage of the World Cup. And I think the focus right now should be trying to get good results in the group stage against what group are they in? Colombia, DR Congo, Portugal. Is that the group K for them?
Very difficult group, I would say.
Yes, very difficult.
Yeah, I mean that's it for the FIFA Series, let's move on to some of the friendlies. I'll just quickly mention the results because there were a ton. Kyrgyzstan lost 1-0 to Equatorial Guinea. We had Vietnam, who won 3-0 against Bangladesh. Iran lost 2-1 to Nigeria. And then we had Saudi Arabia losing 4-0 to Egypt. Jordan versus Costa Rica and 2-2. And then we had Japan winning 1-0 against Scotland. South Korea losing 4-0 to Ivory Coast. Kyrgyzstan losing 5-2 to Madagascar. Very bad window for Kyrgyzstan. I mean, holy shit. And then trying to look for the games here. Iran winning 5-0 against Costa Rica. Japan winning 1-0 against England. And then what else do we have here? Jordan drawing 2-2 against Nigeria. That's 2 draws for Jordan there. Serbia winning 2-1 against Saudi Arabia. And Austria beating South Korea 1-0. And then I think that's it, if I'm not mistaken, unless I'm forgetting something. Yeah, that should be it. Yeah, I think we have some of the teams that we want to talk about here. I mean, Japan. Wow,
Yeah.
what a window for them.
Let's
I think
start with
they
the
are the
good and then
first. Yeah, we'll start with the good. I mean, Japan are the first Asian team to beat England at Wembley, right? I think I saw that stat, and it was
Just in
not like a
general.
lucky win. Just in general. Wow. Okay.
the first
Yeah, I
Asian
mean,
team to beat England, right? You know, Iran could have had that record back in 2020. No, in 2022, but yeah, to say they
Yeah.
shat the bed is an understatement.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it was a bit lower than shat, you know.
I mean, that was a shit show. 2020. I never want to relive that ever again, bro. Anyways, yeah. For Japan, right? Yeah, it's solid, very good stuff. That's exactly what you want to see, and you know, it's getting a lot of attention to people around the world. If you look at people's prediction videos and tier lists and all that stuff, you now have Japan as like a respected side, who, you know, will finally be that team who, you know, they're gonna break that knockout stage curse and could be that dark horse to go all the way, etc., etc. We've had our, you know, very own Kenta, who went on CBS Sports Golazo to talk more about the Japanese national team. Which, by the way, if you haven't watched it, you know, you should probably go check it out. It's a pretty solid, segment, which I don't think Kenta's gonna go over again today. I think it's way too long. But yeah, and also it's important to know this is a Japan squad with a lot of injuries too. So very good that they were able to beat both teams. So yeah, I'll give the stage to you now, Kenta. I know you have a lot more to say than I do.
Yeah, overall great results. I'm sure you look at the Scotland match, they probably would have wished they would have gotten a couple more goals in that. I thought they created better chances, and they had a lot of young forwards in that match to start the match. Goto Keisuke, Suzuki Yuto, who's at Frankfurt, and Sano Kodai was the kind of the front three, and they kind of struggled to put the ball in the. I thought Suzuki Yuto played well, but like all things considered, like first half they didn't put anything in the back of the net. It's also worth noting that a lot of these international matches, teams could choose between having 5 subs or 11 subs. Japan in both matches, and I think a lot of these national teams chose 11 just to see what depth they had and be able to see what players they had going into the World Cup. So you'll see that like Japan made a lot of substitutions, and a lot of these national teams did. And ultimately, it was Shunya Ito off the bench, who I kind of expect to be playing that similar role at the World Cup, where he's kind of a spark plug off the bench as a right winger or a cam. He gets the goal in that match, assisted by Shiogai Kento, who made his national team debut this window. Japan win off of a really good team goal, created mostly by Kaoru Mitoma, in the win at Wembley against England. But as Arya said, like, this team is riddled with injuries, so it's really good to see someone like Hiroki Ito return, the Bayern man, from injury and kind of play well in both matches. It was good to see Zion Suzuki, after he had his hand issue, where he was out for an extended period of time from Parma, to come back from injury and play. And we'll see what the squad looks like, but like a lot of these players that were available played really well. And that obviously contributes to the win, but it's good to see, because when you have depth, it matters that your depth plays well. And you look at someone like Sano Kaishu, who probably isn't the first choice in the midfield when Wataru Endo is healthy and Daichi Kamada's healthy. Kamada was healthy, but point saying, like, those two are probably the starting midfielders. So Taketo Nakamura played well, and I don't know if he starts if all the 10s are available. So really good window by Japan. Great result against England, considering it's England at Wembley. That's a really tough place to win. And yeah, it was just overall very good.
Also worth mentioning, I think it is also worth mentioning, England had a lot of their players pull out too. So it wasn't a full strength England team as well.
I think the biggest one was Harry Kane, who picked up a knock right before the match. So England didn't play with the 9. They played with 2 10s and 2 wingers, and that certainly helps Japan when they're a bit undersized defensively, to not have anyone kind of be a target man in the box.
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, Arya, you'll probably agree with me when I say this. I mean, Japan isn't for everyone, right? It isn't.
Oh yeah, no, it's not for. I agree. I mean, when you have Arya Nourizadeh up at the helm, it's the greatest manager of all time. All right, I'm just gonna stop there.
The wheel.
Speaking of Arya Nourizadeh, I think let's talk a little bit about Iran. A weird friendly, obviously, with everything's going on. A better window than I expected, for sure. I was expecting us to do horribly in both games. I think I spoke with Kenta. I'm like, yeah, we're going to shit the bed against Nigeria. In Costa Rica, I know they're not that great. We're still going to lose against them. The Nigeria game, I think, maybe I'm being a bit biased. I don't know if you guys agree, if you guys watched the game back. I'm just going to say, I think if we had our main team, it was also worth noting, a lot of our players were not there, notably Osmoon, kicked out our national team. A lot of the players, lots of players were not called up. A lot of the main guys were not called up. It was mostly a domestic side. I think on any other day, if we had a full squad, I think we would have beaten Nigeria. I wasn't impressed much by Nigeria either. In that game, I think Taremi got robbed off a very clear penalty. I think he also scored one that was offside. I don't know. I think in a different day, I think we would have beaten Nigeria. Or at the very least, I think we would have drawn them. So it wasn't that bad of a game. I mean, we started off really bad, though. We started off horribly in that Nigeria game. The first, 20, 25 minutes were terrible to watch, but we kind of picked up the pace after that, which is, I guess, nice to see. But I think, again, our main problem comes with our defense. It's just not good enough. Even for a World, it's just not good enough. And it's going to cause us problems at the World Cup. And so just be ready for that, guys. Everything else was good. The midfield's really good. Was really impressed with Razarinia as well. The youngster, we've mentioned him on the channel before. Very, very good. And obviously the attack, one of the few things that we've got going for us. Mohebi and Taremi, it was really nice to see these guys link up. Very, very good. And in the Costa Rica game, man, when's the last time you saw Iran batter a team by a large scoreline like that? It's been a while. It's been a while. And we're talking about Costa Rica, which, they are struggling, but it's still a decent team, right? It's not a deadbeat AFC team, It's a nice result. I'm happy with it. I wasn't expecting us to go and beat them 5-0, but it's cool to see. And all the goals were, well, for the exception of the pens, were very good. Were very, very well constructed. So I don't know. Should I be happy? Should we be happy about this, Kenta? You tell us from a neutral perspective. I don't know. I don't know how to feel at this moment with this national team. Obviously, there's the off the field issue stuff as well. One last thing. Infantino was there at the Costa Rica game, and he said that he talked with the national team and everyone. So I think this now probably means that Iran will be participating at the World Cup. I mean, again, I won't say it's going to be 100% the case, but I think it's looking a lot more likely than it was a few weeks ago. So, and this is also the answer to many of you who have been messaging me, and I'm pretty sure you guys have been getting DMs as well, whether Iran will be participating at the World Cup. So, sorry, I've been ranting for a long time. Kenta.
Yeah, Costa Rica obviously haven't been a great team as of late. Highlighted by the fact that despite USA, Canada, and Mexico qualifying for the World Cup as hosts and not playing through qualification, they still didn't make the World Cup, Costa Rica. And to me, this team is just not the same quality that we've seen in the last few editions of the World Cup. You look at, one of the better goalkeepers in the world in Keylor Navas. That's not happening anymore. Navas is still a great goalkeeper. He's not playing for the national team. We didn't see him play in the 2 friendlies against Jordan and Iran this window. So I think you take it with a grain of salt, but the result was still very good.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to accept the fact that it was a very good result. We haven't seen Costa Rica concede 5 goals in a really long time. I can't remember the last time they got blown out like that. Like even
This
when
was
they
their
played the
second
US,
heaviest defeat, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
In their history.
There you go.
I believe.
With their
even
first
against
Spain,
right?
What is it?
Yes, it was Spain.
With
it
their
was Spain
biggest
back in
defeat
the
being
World
to
Cup.
Spain.
That was their first
in the World
was their
Cup in
heaviest
2022.
Defeat. Right.
Yeah. And they beat Japan in that group, so go figure. It was
like I said, bro. Japan is not for everyone, bro. I'm just saying. No, I'm kidding. Yeah,
it's a good result, and I think sometimes we like analyze matches like this, especially friendlies, but going into a major competition like a tournament, like a World Cup or an Asian Cup or whatever that might be, and we say, "Oh, but it wasn't a good team." That's an uncontrollable for the players. They have to show up and they have to play, right?
Mhm.
So for an Iran team with everything going on, and just in general, right, and after a loss to Nigeria, to go out and get a statement win. That's the most important thing. I don't care that it was against Costa Rica. It could have been against San Marino. It could have been against England. Like the fact that they were able to get that result to me is more important than anything else. Like just the big win is so important. Like it's such a morale boost for a group to say, hey, like we can do this. We can get a clean sheet. We can put the ball in the back of the net, and you can even that just leaves us momentum going into the World Cup. That's more important. It doesn't matter who you do it against.
Yeah, and I mean, let's take everything into consideration. I mean, most of the players in the national team play in the domestic league. And the domestic league had been off for about a month when the international break started. The players hadn't played in a month. All the players had to take a bus to Turkey. Yeah, I think this is all very important to mention. I mean, and that's why it showed, I think, in the first game against Nigeria, how some of the players were not fit. And, it was a bit obvious that they hadn't played in a while. And I think taking all of that into consideration, I would say this was a successful window for Iran. I mean, Nigeria aren't a bad side at all. And, I think they did fairly well, especially in the second half. The defense was a bit shaky, like you mentioned, Arya, but I think that's something that the team knows, and they'll try to improve on it before the World Cup. Even though it might be a bit too late. And then, that Costa Rica game, I don't think there's anything we can really complain about. It was very, very good football, something we haven't seen since, I would say, the game against Japan from the Iranian national team.
All I have to say is I want Nourizadeh to start from now on. He genuinely impressed me that much. He was freaking amazing, bro.
Yeah. He just looks so comfortable on the ball, even though he's not very experienced.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not difficult to look experienced when you have certain players on that Iranian national team. It's not difficult. Right. Yeah, let's move on to, I think we have to talk about South Korea. I think we have to.
We do. Yeah, South Korea. Well, I mean, you couldn't have scripted a worse window for this national team, and I think there's just a lot of question marks. Obviously, with the Hongbin as the manager, I think there's a lot of, from what I've seen, I don't, my Twitter or X feed isn't entirely made of a lot of Korean national team stuff, but from what I've seen, it does not look like he is favored by anyone. And it's a bit too late to switch managers right before World Cups. And it's real cause for concern. Especially the 4-0 loss in the first match today. But were you able to catch any of those matches, either of those matches? Because they were really.
I did watch the Ivory Coast game.
I'm going to say this. I know the manager's not the best, but I feel like Korean fans are only blaming the manager, and I don't think that's right. I think the players need to take some of the blame too. I don't think any of them were good enough. Even the top guys, they weren't good enough. You have to give some of the blame to those guys. And you mentioned about the Twitter people, Kenta. Everyone is so fixated on the manager. And it's kind of relatable for the Iranian national team too. When Harinui was shitting the bed, everyone was bashing him too, until we realized after a few games that it's not only him. The players aren't good too. And I feel like I'm just looking at that back line against that Ivory Coast team. I mean, you got your main guy in Kim Min-jae. I think he was freaking terrible. Just has to be said. They just weren't great. So people can come ahead and say, oh, but we've got Son Heung-min, greatest Asian player. We got this guy. We got that guy. I don't care. He wasn't great. That's just a fact. So there's a lot that needs to be fixed. Even if they hire a new coach, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go ahead and start doing well. But to be conceding 5 goals in 2 games and not scoring a single goal, it's a big cause for concern in my opinion. But yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's sad.
yeah.
It's sad to see. I feel
It's
bad. I
bad.
really do feel
It's
bad.
very bad.
It's bad. It's bad.
I mean, you look at Sonny, who played as kind of the number 9 in that second match, and even at LAFC, it's kind of been a slow start, and it feels like he's just a step behind this year. I know very recently he played against Orlando City.
Yeah,
and
literally,
literally,
Yeah,
4
I was gonna
assists.
say.
So maybe
Yeah.
that's poor timing for that for my comment here, but it just feels like he's just not the same player that he was, a couple years ago. Obviously, Asia's is getting up there. I thought Kangin played okay in the first match, or the second match. First match, I didn't think he played well. Even Kim Min-jae played horribly in that 4-0 loss. He
That's
was
what I
played
said.
well in
I
that
think
4-0
he was
loss.
horrendously bad.
atrocious.
But
And
yeah,
I
I mean,
don't
we're
see
talking about like
anyone. Nobody was criticizing, and people were just straight up going to the manager. Which I mean, I get. I mean, the manager's always going to get most of the blame. But like, come on, man. Come on, man.
Well, okay, so like I mean, it's one thing to lose 1-0, right? Because then you kind of have an objective like place to look at and say, well, the attack wasn't good enough, but the defense did well. They only conceded 1 goal, right? So it's easier to marginalize what went well and what didn't. In a blowout loss where you don't score, that's a system failure. You didn't control the midfield. Your attack weren't able to generate anything defensively. You were a mess. At that point, like. Do you look at every player and say, "Oh, you weren't good enough," or do you say like the manager then set us up properly to succeed? I think that's a fair analysis to say, well, like in that first match, you really just weren't able to like put anything together. Like you just it weren't organized. You weren't like, and so in that case, I'm fine with Hong Min-jae taking the blame or being given the blame. A 4-0 loss, but I think the Austria match, like I think it was an issue of like they played well defensively. I thought for the most part. I know they conceded a goal in the second half early to Marcel Sabitzer, but like as a whole, they played well. They just didn't generate anything. They had the better chances. They had the higher quantity of chances, and they just legitimately like they just didn't do anything. So like that's a real area of concern for South Korea. Is like I could care less about the 5 goals conceded right now because I'll throw away that 4-0 result as a bad match as a whole. But like, if you're unable to put the ball in the back of the net, that's the real concern. And of course, you have a former Golden Boot winner in the Premier League in Son Heung-min, and you have a Champions League winner in Kangin Lee. Like, great name value, sure, but like, I need to see something on the pitch, and I haven't seen it over the 2 matches, and that's I think where the concern grows from is like until I see the ball hit the like it's scary, and like they're in a group where like the teams they're playing like they're gonna have to put the ball in the back of the net. And they should be able to make it out of this group stage on paper. South Africa, Czechia, Mexico. Like they should be moving on. But Mexico's finding their groove at the right time. Like we've seen their last few matches. If you've seen their last few matches, they've been very good. So I think there's concern there in terms of what this team's going to do, especially if they're really struggling up front, as they have over the last couple matches.
Right.
I think there's 2 more teams we'll cover before we move on with the friendlies. Jordan and Saudi Arabia. Both World Cup teams. By the way, Qatar didn't play a single game this winter. And I think they played like a domestic friendly, but they didn't play against another national team because they couldn't get one because of the situation in the Middle East, which is unfortunate. But yeah, Jordan drew both games, 2-2 against Costa Rica. They were winning that game 2-0, by the way, and then 2-2 against Nigeria. The Nigeria result is decent, but I think, considering the level that Costa Rica were in, I expected them to win. So I think maybe they have some defensive issues from set pieces. Actually, a lot of it. I saw that they were really weak defending set pieces. So hopefully they can improve that because their World Cup group is not easy and they're not favored to qualify at all. So yeah, we'll see what happens with them. But I think the bigger loser here is probably Saudi Arabia. Same as South Korea. I mean, a 4-0 loss to Egypt at home, and Egypt, I think Salah wasn't even playing, and then a 2-1 loss to Serbia, which is better, but still not a good result, especially considering they were winning 1-0, and then they were dominated until the end of the game, and then ultimately lost 2-1. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions being asked around Herb Renard. I mean, I've seen rumors that some people are saying he might get sacked, which now I don't think is the case anymore. But yeah, they've not been playing good football at all. And considering the quality they have, I think Salim Odosari wasn't with the team in these 2 games. But still, it's disappointing. I mean, Arya, what do you think?
It's concerning for Saudi. It is concerning. I think you need to do much better. I mean, Egypt is also a team that I think it's fair to say haven't been the best over the past few months too. I mean, however, I will say this window they've been really good. I mean, they also drew, I think it was a 0-0 draw against Spain with a man down in the last few minutes. I think that's pretty cool for them to do. But 4-0, 4. That's big.
At home, by the way.
If it was like 1-0 or 2-0, I've been like, okay, sure. 4? 1, 2, 3, 4? Chaharta?
Yeah, South Korean fans can relate. Yeah.
4 goals is insane. But yeah, it is what it is. And as for Jordan, again, good result against Nigeria, as you mentioned. Not so good result against Costa Rica. It's so hard to analyze teams that like they have one great game and then one just not great game. And you're just like, well, I don't know if they're actually good or not. You know what I mean? So you just have to kind of analyze it a bit more in detail, which I have not watched the game, so I am unable to comment on that matter. But yeah, best of luck to them at the World Cup as well. Big up Jordan.
Kenta, what did you make of Saudi's performance?
Yeah. It's well, I'll start with Jordan because it's on my mind right now. Because I really hope this isn't a trend we see at the World Cup where they played well and then fall apart towards the end of the match. I really hope that's not what we see. It's almost like Iran during World Cup qualification to an extent where like they just have moments where like they've just turned off. Like 10, 15 minutes. They'd ultimately, Iran, to their credit, still would win their matches, but like the results wouldn't be pretty, right? And so it's the wrong time to be kind of switching off in certain matches. And you guys spoke about Saudi Arabia a lot, about that Egypt result. It's not good. And like Egypt had a lot of domestic players. I don't know what their roster is going to look like at the World Cup because I don't really follow CAF a ton, but it wasn't like it was being torched by a Premier League striker and Omar Marmoush and goal by Marmoush. Everything else was by a lot of domestic league club players. So I think it would be a bit more like that's unfortunate if it's a hat trick by Mo Salah and a goal by Marmoush, and it's like, well, they're Premier League players. Like it would be, we'd look at it under a different light, but it's concerning. I'm concerned for Saudi's attack. 1 goal in 2 matches. Again, that's the kind of stuff I want to focus on more than necessarily the result over 2 matches. Like, what they do like across 2 legs.
The goal was good, to be fair, but yeah, other than that,
it just wasn't good enough. And I'm concerned for the Saudi team going into the World Cup. They're in a tough group with Uruguay and Spain. Cape Verde, I think, like will be a good matchup, but they just haven't been playing well as of late, and I just don't have any confidence in this national team right now going into the World Cup unless something changes, which it's a bit too late for that, I think.
A question for you guys.
I mean,
yeah,
sorry.
I was gonna say a question for you guys, and that's just to have a general kind of point of view of where we're at with these AFC sides. Between South Korea and Saudi Arabia, which team do you guys have less confidence in? Number one, and why?
Between Saudi Arabia and who? Sorry?
South Korea.
I have less confidence in Saudi Arabia, I would say.
Right.
Absolutely.
First of all, you have to consider the quality of the opponents that they played, and also the potential that team has. And I think with the players that South Korea have, they have a lot more potential. But with Saudi Arabia, I don't see it going anywhere, I don't know how good they can play. I haven't seen it yet under this manager.
Right.
I'll add that like I don't want to entirely blame the Saudi Pro League, but like when you have a league that's paying as much as the Saudi Pro League is in terms of wages to their players, it feels like there's no real fight in some of these matches. Like it just feels like there's not as much of a want from some of these Saudi Arabian players, and it would be very naive of me to say that like they'll just flip the switch for the World Cup. Like it's easier said than done. Like, oh, come World Cup, that's an important tournament. They're gonna turn it around and like perform very well. But they just haven't proven it. At least with South Korea, as you mentioned, like they have players that I would look at and say, well, they're at least like playing into top leagues in Europe, and like they could do something. And structurally, like they're also in a group that I feel more confident in. I guess I don't know if that's necessarily fair, but like I don't have any confidence in the Saudi Arabian team against Spain and against Uruguay, but I have a bit more confidence in the South Korean group. Like in terms of them being able to sneak out of the group stages and make the knockout stage, even if their coach doesn't set them up for success and some of their players are aging. Like even if that's the case, like I have more confidence in that setup. So if I'm playing like which one I imagine would play better at the World Cup, it's going to be South Korea unless I see something different from Saudi Arabia.
Good answer.
What would you say, Arya? Do you agree?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's Saudi Arabia for sure. I just wanted to have a general opinion just to see where we're at.
All right, so let's quickly move on to the Asian Cup qualifiers. Pakistan, last edition's surprise debutants qualified this time as well with a 1-1 draw against Philippines. Unfortunate for Philippines, they missed out on goal difference. In Group B, Lebanon and Yemen, they still didn't play their final game due to the war ongoing in Lebanon, and they'll play in June. Lebanon should qualify unless Yemen win against them, which I don't see happening. In Group C, we already talked about this before, Singapore qualified. And then in Group D as well. Now, this game was a very good game. Thailand against Turkmenistan. The stadium was packed in Thailand, and then that last-minute goal from Manuel Beer off the corner where he scored the header, and the stadium erupted. And I haven't seen those kind of scenes in Asian Cup qualifiers in a long time, and it honestly put a smile on my face. And yeah, so Turkmenistan will be missing out, and Thailand have qualified. Syria had already qualified for before, and then we hadn't talked about this before, but Malaysia are out. We obviously had the whole dual national situation with them, and the forgery case, and at the end it came to bite them. And not only that, but they also lost against Vietnam in the last match day. So yeah, we won't be seeing Malaysia in the next Asian Cup. Now, anything you guys want to talk about, Kenta? I'll start with you.
Yeah, we'll start off with the last group that we just mentioned, Group F with Vietnam. They get their result reversed from the Malaysia match, and they go undefeated in the group stage. Ultimately, I thought it was a really good match against Malaysia in the final match day as well. They were up 3-0 at one point in that match. They can see a late penalty, and it's 3-1, but it doesn't. It felt more like a celebration to be at home, having already qualified for the Asian Cup before the match even started. And that it was really fun to see kind of them. I don't want to call it a send-off match because like there's so much time between now and the Asian Cup next year, but like it kind of felt like one of those like send-off matches where everyone's like, yeah, well, like we made the Asian Cup, and like we're playing the team that like screwed themselves over by like fielding ineligible players. So it's kind of like it just felt, watching that match was very like, it felt very
live hate watch.
Yeah, but like it's at home, and it's not like on the stream. It's like in front of your home fans. So I thought that was very good. Yeah, I mean, some of these groups were close. Others, like Group E with Syria, was not close. Because like even like Myanmar didn't play well over the entirety of these matches. I didn't think they were like spectacular. They lost some matches big, so it just wasn't super impressive. And then yeah, as you mentioned, some really good matches on the final match day. The Thailand match was really, really good. So the limbs, as the people say, from that goal was so good.
Limbs, seriously. Yeah. Anything you want to add for the Asian Cup qualifiers?
No, not much. It's just an unfortunate thing for Malaysia, man. It's just really unfortunate.
Yeah. Looking forward to the Asian Cup next year as well. I mean, we're already reaching the next Asian Cup. It feels like the Qatar Asian Cup was like a few months ago last year. But yeah, we're gonna see the next Asian Cup in a few months, hopefully. Yeah, moving on to the last topic of the day. Iraq qualified for the World Cup. Everyone, round of applause. Good job to Iraq. They're going to be the first team to travel all 3 countries at the World Cup, and I think that's just an amazing achievement for them. I mean, Arya, don't you agree with that?
Fucked at the World Cup. That's all I'm gonna
Okay.
say.
Kenta, what do you think?
The Bolivia match was really entertaining. I'll start there. It was a good match. Ayman Hussein with the winner. To play in that very, very beautiful stadium in Monterrey, the infamous stadium with like the mountains in the back, right? We've all seen the pictures of it. The house of CF Monterrey and Liga MX. And so they now conquered one of the 3 countries in hosting the World Cup. So now they've got
they're not conquering the other 2. They're not conquering the other 2.
I'm trying to remember what fields, like venues they play at. I think their final match is at BMO Field in Toronto, against Senegal, and then their 2 matches against the UEFA teams are over here in the States at NFL stadiums. I think it's one's at Gillette Stadium, which is near Boston in Foxborough, Massachusetts, home of the New England Patriots, and the other one I think is Lincoln Financial, sorry, which is the home of the Philadelphia Eagles, which I actually have been to and covered some Premier League matches in a couple years ago. So great for them to have the opportunity to play some of the best European national teams. They get to play France, Norway, and those teams. I don't remember which one was which. Someone can correct me if they or tell me which one was which. And I think they play Senegal in Toronto. So the 6th, as they say.
Does it really matter? Does it really matter who they're playing with in what order? Does it really matter?
Well, Philly fans, I don't know if you guys know much about like American sports fans, but fans in Philadelphia are crazy. So like that's going to be the tougher environment to play in. So if they play France there, that's going to be ugly. as if that matchup wasn't already difficult enough. But yeah, I think Foxborough, like during the summer, won't be too hot. Boston pretty far north in the US and on the East Coast. I know Foxborough's had I don't know if you guys have seen this on the news, but their city government's not has some issues with the budgeting and the finances for the World Cup, and that's been a whole thing. So I don't know if that's been settled. I haven't kept track of it, but yeah, Iraq. Let me check here. They're opening in Gillette, so they'll open in Massachusetts, and then they'll go to Philadelphia against France. That's tough. Best of luck to you, Iraq. Enjoy the flight,
luck, man.
And the cities.
I hope you guys have a good flight.
Yeah.
I mean, no, but I want to talk about the actual game, and I think it was kind of written on the stars for Ayman Hussein to get the goal that sent them to the World Cup. I think it was very beautiful.
Yes.
And then they already went to Iraq.
Yeah, speaking of, I want to ask another interesting question, and I think we can end it on this. I've seen people on Iraqi football Twitter talk about this. Let's say Ayman Hussein scores a goal at the World Cup. Would that goal then be bigger than Yunus Mahmoud's goal at the 2007 Asian Cup final? What do you guys think? I genuinely don't know. I don't know. I
think it depends on the circumstances.
Wait, okay. Yeah. So just him scoring a goal?
Or I guess if they win the game. Let's say they win a game or something like that. Or,
okay. Well, that changes the entire context of the question.
Because realistically, they're not winning the game. So let's just say him scoring a goal.
If they win a game and it takes them to the knockouts, then yeah, I don't see why not. But if it's a Taremi goal against England, then no, that's not really
exactly
right.
That's the whole thing. It's the context matters so much. Look, if it leads to a result, even a 1-1 draw, I think it's in worth having a conversation at that point. If Iraq in some way in Philly, Ayman Hussein scores a goal in the second match day, and they draw France 1-1, maybe that's a bigger result. Maybe, even if they don't make it out of the group stage. But if it's France is up 9-0, and then Ayman Hussein scores a goal off a PK in the 92nd minute of the match, we're not going to be talking about that being bigger than winning the 2007 Asian Cup. Let's be for real.
What if it's
that's not even comparable. What if it's a 2-1 loss?
What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What if it's a 2-1 loss? What but it's
No,
against
I
like
still
No, the
don't
France.
think
Asian
it's
Cup,
gonna.
winning the Asian Cup is, oh my goodness.
No,
No,
but if it's against,
Absolutely
no.
not.
what if it's
Is the
against,
Asian Cup just like not mean anything now? Like what?
A war-torn Iraq won the Asian Cup. It's not going to be bigger than that. I'm sorry.
listen, man, I have
I,
my opinion. I'm just spitting the question back to you guys. Apparently,
yeah,
it's a
no, I
debate
don't think
on
so.
Twitter. I think context matters, as you guys have said.
If Ayman
Just an
Hussein
interesting
scores the
question to
winning
put
goal
out there.
in the World Cup final, yeah, that's probably more significant than the Asian Cup. But like, like what are we talking about?
No, but like, I saw Ayman Hussein, he embraced the sombrero, which is like the Mexican hat, he celebrates with it.
Mhm.
I think, maybe he can look forward to doing something similar in Canada and America. Maybe when he goes to Canada, he can try the maple syrup, or in America, I don't even know, like burgers or something. But like, I think like that's a good goal to focus on if they
I was
can
gonna
can
say
wear a
win the
something,
cowboy
actual
but
hat,
games.
I was gonna say something, but like I don't know. I think it's best if I keep my mouth shut.
He can wear a cowboy hat in the U.S. because
He can
that's
wear
like
exactly. He
an
can wear a cowboy
American
hat.
piece
Yeah.
of article clothing.
So there are things to look forward to. It's not all bad,
Yeah, in theory.
But honestly, I'm very happy for her. I think they had like 21 games played. It was a very, very long campaign. I'm very happy for them and their fans, and I think after a 4th-year wait, I think they absolutely deserve to go to the World Cup.
Yeah,
And shout out to Graham Arnold, by the way.
yes,
What the job he's done.
Indeed, absolutely. I mean, he's lost a couple matches. Like he lost a couple matches in the Arab Cup. He lost his first match since coming in against South Korea. I don't think he's lost anything outside of those. He's been
he has
been
3
great
losses, I believe, and 2 of them came in the Arab Cup, if I'm not mistaken. No, Graham Arnold. When he came in, we had our doubts. I remember we didn't really think it would lead somewhere, but we were wrong. Honestly, I'm happy to be proven wrong. I'm happy that he completely turned around this erratic team, and I know the fans love him, the players love him, and just looks like a good team. And I know they're probably not going to reach the knockout stages, but I'm still very excited to see how they play against the big dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, like you go back to like when he got sacked by Australia. Those last 2 matches at the start of the 3rd round of World Cup qualification were horrible. I mean, you lost to Bahrain 1-0 and drew Indonesia.
At home, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh no. He's looked so good, and he took Australia to the knockout stage in the World Cup in 2022 after losing to Argentina, right? No, that was or France. It was one of the big teams. It was France, and then they beat Denmark, they beat Tunisia to move on to the knockouts, and then lost to Argentina in the knockouts. Like it was a pretty solid tournament for Australia. So maybe he has some magic in him in tournament football. Who knows?
Perfect.
Are anything you want to add about Iraq?
No, congratulations to them. Best of luck. You're gonna need it. I guess it's a good time to also preview some of the upcoming content that we're gonna have before we leave you guys. We will be having a preview for every Asian team leading to the World Cup. So stay tuned for that. Follow us on our socials, and yeah. Anything else?
Hope we get peace as soon as possible, and hope everyone in the Middle East is safe. Goodbye, guys.